Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was born a low-class devil before the Great Devil War. Realizing how the devil class system subjugated devils of lower class, Naruto will represent his origins as he rises and expose the corrupted system that he lives in, and he'll do it without the high-class devils even realizing it. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 22, The Devil Exams Finals. Rating Game Dimension, Swamp Environment. A veil of purple encased Dosu as multiple magic circles appeared behind him, causing Rias to step back a little in fear. I told you that I would destroy you, and I will. Everyone will see their favorite little Gremory outclassed in every way, then people will realize who the fuck I am. They will see Dosu Kanuta. He shouted as multiple beams of magic rained down at Rias, signaling the start of a long-awaited battle. Rias summoned her wings and quickly flew off of her small island, which was destroyed by the barrage of magical blast by Dosu created. Some of the beams of magic followed after the Gremory heiress, causing her to create multi-layer defensive barriers to hold back the threatening beams. The red-head heiress gritted her teeth as Dosu's magical beams connected with her barrier. While they did hold strong, blocking any attempt of harm, Rias noticed the amount of power that Dosu put into his spell. He's not playing any games, she thought, sweat conjuring together on her forehead as she continued to hold back the beams. If I slip up even once, he'll destroy me. Dosu summoned his own wings and jumped off his perch from the trees, dropping down onto Rias and intending on landing a menacing punch to her side. She anticipated his move, however, and dodged by using her legs to push off of her barrier, while flapping her wings to generate more speed. While flying away, she summoned magic and shot multiple bullets of power of destruction at the hunchback. Not enough to stop me, he said, stretching out his arm. A loud screeching sound filled the area as Dosu created a sonic boom, which cancelled out Rias' attempt at harming him. I know all of your little tricks, Gremory. You won't be able to catch me off guard. While that may be true, that doesn't mean that he has the advantage, thought Rias as she continued to shot bolts of her power of destruction at Dosu, who was swerving through the assault to avoid being disintegrated into nothingness. He knows all of my strengths, but I also know how he fights now. If I can just keep my distance, I'll always be out of range of his sonic attacks. Dosu grunted as one of Rias' bolts of destruction grazed his arm, burning through his sleeve and a small bit of flesh with ease. She's supposed to be a long-range fighter, so I guess I have the disadvantage right now, he muttered, blocking the approaching bolts of destruction with a screeching sonic blast of sound. Time to use something she hasn't seen before. Rias seized her bolts of destruction and looked at Dosu in confusion as he created a white magic circle that hovered over his outstretched arm. She cocked an eyebrow in even more confusion when Dosu threw a magic circle in her direction. Not want to take any chances, Rias shot a blast of power of destruction at the circle to destroy. However, she was surprised when Dosu pointed his fingers down, the circle following his actions, and ducked underneath the pod bolt. It stopped once it was right underneath Rias. Once a loud screeching sound erupted from it. Ah! Rias screamed in pain as sonic boom hit her. Instead of being blown away though, she took the brunt of the attack in the same spot until the attack ended, the magic circle disappearing. Rias slumped over and started to fall from the sky. Her skin was smoking and burn marks danced all over her skin. She felt weak and her head was ringing from the explosion of sound that forced its way into her ears. She was losing consciousness as she landed into the murky waters of the swamp, not caring that she was drenched herself in the disgusting water. She slowly pushed herself up, holding her head against her palm before her danger senses alarmed her to move. Looking behind her, she saw 3 massive fire dragons quickly approaching her, ready to burn her into a crisp. Ignoring her agonizing headache, Rias summoned a green barrier around her body, which blocked the explosion of fire from hitting her once the dragons made contact with it. Dosu watched from the skies as smoke enveloped the area below him. He watched with a keen eye for any signs of the red-headed Gremory. She better not be finished. This would be too easy and not as enjoyable if she doesn't put up a fight, thought the hunchback as he continued his inspection of the ground below him. He internally smirked when he saw blue tendrils of water shoot out of the smoke screen and was rocketing towards him with impressive speeds. He quickly summoned a white magic circle and destroyed the tendrils with a blast of sound, dismantling their structure. He then created 3 more fire dragons and ordered them to fly into the smoke screen. I'm sick of waiting for you, Gremroy. Come out and fight me. Stop running away like a coward. Dosu perked up when he saw a flash of red within the smoke screen, probably destroying my dragons with her power of destruction. TCH, that ability is like a cheat code. He mumbled as he watched the display of red-orange flashes happening within the smoke cloud. Suddenly, Ria shot out of the smoke screen with a smirk on her face as she flew towards Dosu, red energy gathering together around her palms. Dosu raised a non-existent eyebrow at this. Rias wasn't one for charging at her enemy, because she is a long-range specialist. You must be desperate. He summed up as he created another magic circle and sent a massive sonic blast down upon the girl. This should end you. Shocked filled Dosu's body, however, when he saw Rias was unaffected by his sonic boom and continued to close in on him. What? He shouted as he summoned a barrier to protect himself from Rias. Again, shock and confusion were evident in his lone eye as Rias' body didn't connect with his barrier, but it phased through it and himself like it was nothing. An afterimage? He questioned before it hit him like a ton of bricks, an illusion. Suddenly, red beams of destruction shot out from all over, coming out from different areas of the swamp and heading right for Dosu. He was surrounded at all angles as the beams of destruction closed in on him, causing him to create a multi-layered defensive bubble around him in order to block all of the beams. The real Rias was gathering her breath as she slowly hovered out of the fading smoke cloud. She watched in happiness that her plan had succeeded. That's one thing that I did learn from Naruto-sama. Glad that it came in handy, she said with a relieved sigh. While she was fighting off Dosu's fire dragons, she created guided missiles of power of destruction within the forest to use as a full-scale attack once he was distracted. The distraction was her body double illusion that drew Dosu's attention while she created all of her guided missiles. While it took a lot of concentration to pull everything off in a matter of seconds, she was pleased to see that she had backed Dosu in a corner. Her moment of victory didn't last long as a loud screeching noise filled the area, causing the Gremory heiress to cover her ears to block some of the sound. Dosu, using his sonic abilities, blew all of the smoke and lingering pod away, revealing his angry face. You almost got me with that one. You are very resourceful in using an illusion to draw my attention elsewhere. Just because you had a hard life doesn't mean that I can't keep up with you, she said, her body glowing as her power of destruction was surrounding her in a magnificent display of light. We've all had our struggles, Dosu, and prevailing through them made me who I am today. Dosu laughed, mocking the Gremory ho? So you're going to preach to me now about becoming strong? Stop acting like you've had to work for anything to live. You have the genes of Gremory and Bael flowing through your veins. You're promised to be an ultimate class devil just by blood alone. Don't talk to me like you know anything about prevailing from your struggles. You couldn't even save yourself from being married off to the Phoenix prick, needing someone else to do the heavy lifting for you. While his words were true, it caused Ria's anger to spike, the magic erupting from her mirroring her anger. With a loud, rage-filled roar, Rias conjured up a massive amount of her magic and shot a huge ball of power of destruction at Dosu. His eye widened at the power behind the attack, and quickly decided that blocking that wouldn't be his best idea. With a flap of his wings, Dosu shifted his body to his right to dodge the incoming death ball, but Rias anticipated his movements. Stretching her upwards while creating a large red magic circle, a flood of red beams of power of destruction shot upwards into the sky, destroying through the branches that stood in their way like they were nothing. Let me show you what I can do since I need someone else to save me, she shouted with anger. Dosu's lone eye widened when all of the beams showered back down to the ground, but they were all heading right for him. Shit, he muttered before taking off in a burst of speed, wanting to avoid Rias' guided missiles. It's no use. she muttered, concentrating on keeping her fireworks locked onto Dosu's retreating form. Controlling the direction of her pod was one of the techniques Naruto had taught her months ago, and she worked on it tirelessly during the break. While she wasn't a master at using guided missiles, especially those that packed so much power into them, she knew she couldn't slack off if she even wanted the small chance of beating Dosu. She knew that he was stronger than her, probably had more experience than her as well, but Rias was smart. She was an expert tactician. If there was a way to beating the teenage mummy, she would find it. An annoyed Dosu growled as he continued to dodge and block Rias' fireworks that were following him around the swamp. No matter where he went, they would break through any obstacle and continue to follow him. This little witch is going all out. He muttered, running this damn swamp isn't doing me any good. Offense is my best defense here, he stated, summoning white magic circles that hovered over his fist. Halting midair while cocking his right arm back, Dosu turned around as one of the many rockets of destruction was about to hit him. Moving inward, he grunted as his fist impacted the tip of the red rocket. From the magic circle erupted a large screeching noise as a powerful sound wave collided against and broke through the red energy stream in an explosion of red light. He didn't stop there as he shifted to his right, dodge another rocket before sending a sonic boom at a trio of rockets raining down from above him with his left hand. Once they were gone, 4 more beams danced around each other before splitting apart, serving as a diversion for the one they were hiding. He quickly hovered over to his left while uppercutting the rocket, destroying it with an explosion of red light and visible white rings of sound. The other 4 in one rocket that he dodges not too long ago circled around, aimed for his chest and exposed back. Stretching out both arms, he released a brutal sonic boom that caused them to explode in a magnificent display of light. Flying out of the massive explosion, Dosu charged into the hellfire of destruction bolts that was meters away with not fear. Pulling up his right sleeve, revealing his resonating echo speaker, he filled it with magic to continue his counterattack. White tendrils of sound blasted out of his speaker and countered all of Rias' beams, matching them in power and speed. Dosu flew through the chaos surrounding him like it was nothing, dodging the occasional beam of destruction and blasting it away with a sonic boom while speeding towards Rias. The young Gremory saw his approaching and didn't let up on her assault. "You're not getting near me. She shouted, creating extra guided missiles and adding her own softball-sized orbs of destruction at the mummy. The area was filled with flashes of red and white as Dosu and Rias battled out midair, countering one's attack with another, and then attacking with a new spell only to be blocked again. It was an endless war as sound and destruction clashed against each other. Dosu smirked as he continued to pour out tendrils of white sound from his speaker to counter Rias' missiles. "This is pretty interesting, Gremory," he shouted over the loud explosions. "You've really impressed me with this new determination of yours." Rias gritted her teeth as she continued her barrage of mixed destructive attacks. Keeping up with Dosu was slowly tiring her out. While she felt like she had a large pool of magic to call upon, she was feeling the effects of drowsiness affect her aim and control over her magic. "I need to end this now," she thought. However, she couldn't find an opening to capitalize on. "Alas," said Dosu, catching Rias' attention, "all good things must come to an end." This was fun. Dosu stretched out his arms sideways, opening his palms while gathering his magic together. "Thanks for producing all of this sound for me. It makes controlling it easier for me, even when I'm so far away from you," he finished as he clapped his hands together. A hoarse sound stretched across the swamp battlefield, its piercing high frequencies noticeable even through the explosions. Rias' vision suddenly blurred and she lost control of her magic. She instantly moved her hands to her ears to try and block the sound somewhat, but the damage was already done. She felt something wet on her palms and she saw that it was blood leaking from out of her ears. Her whole world went blurry as her stance slackened. Dosu recalled his magic and floated over to Rias, who was struggling to stay in the air. My specialty is sound, Gremory. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get close to you because of your specialty in spells, so I decided to let my sound reach you instead. I just needed a large source to manipulate and send to your ears. The noise from the explosions was the perfect medium to use to take you down. You can't defeat sound, he said with a chuckle. In a desperation attempt to create some distance, Rias tried to conjure up another bolt of destruction, but her spitting headache only worsened when she called upon her magic. She could hardly even move because of her headache and lack of balance. She was about to plummet to the ground, but Dosu's hand wrapped around her throat, catching her midair. Little girl, you've got something that interests me. Dosu's left hand reached into Ria's pocket, searching for her phoenix tear that he helped her get almost 24 hours ago. Dosu's hand was inside of her left pocket, but her phoenix tear was safely protected in her right. She knew that if Dosu were to get her phoenix tear, his chances of winning would increase drastically. Issei's smiling face flashed in her mind and she knew that she had to destroy the tear. Need to do something, she thought as she forced herself to produce a small amount of power of destruction around her right hand. Before Dosu could do anything to stop her, she set her open palm against her skirt, which her pod destroyed instantly, and the phoenix tear that was inside it. Dosu's eyes widened when he saw her destroy the phoenix tear, but he didn't respond the way that Rias thought he would. Dosu sighed in disappointment and said, "Well then, there goes that." Seeing no other reason to keep her up, Dosu dropped Rias, letting her body fall down until she hit the surface of the swampy waters beneath them. While the water wasn't deep at all, it was enough to swallow her body whole, covering her like she was never there in the first place. She just had to be difficult, stupid Gremory, said Dosu, crossing his arms while flying down to where Rias was. His feet sunk into the water and mud of the swamp, but he didn't mind. He reached into the water until he had a grip on her hair. He pulled on it until Ria's head was out of the water. She was gasping for breath, a bit weakly because she was still disoriented. "Hello there," he joked. Rias coughed out water as she gasped out for air. She didn't even bother trying to attack him because she was disoriented and couldn't move properly. Her vision somewhat recovered, but her world was still a little fuzzy. Said Dosu, "You really did surprise me a little with you putting up a fight. I'll give you that, but in the end, my determination was stronger than yours." He set his free hand's palm on her forehead and prepared to finish her off. "While I don't usually do this, I will give you the opportunity to get something off your chest before I retire you." "Anything you want to say?" he asked her. Rias coughed again, still gathering air in her lungs. She blinked a few times as her vision started to clear and Dosu's image was clearer now. She held her tongue for a while, but to Dosu's surprise, she actually smiled at him, even though it was a weak smile. She smiled at him and said, "I had fun. Thanks, Dosu, Kinyuta." "You had fun?" he said, highly confused. "What the hell does that mean?" he said with a small amount of anger leaking out. She weakly laughed, pissing him off even further. I wasn't sure about myself at the beginning of this tournament, but now, I'm comfortable. I can leave with pride in myself that I made it this far." She closed her eyes with let out a content sigh, as if a weight was lifted off of her shoulders. "I give up, I surrender." Ria's body was enveloped in a flash of blue light for a few seconds before fading away, teleporting out of the rating game dimension, leaving Dosu by himself in the murky waters of the swamp. "Rias Gremory has retired," said the announcer, his voice stretching throughout the rating game dimension. Dosu growled, not at all satisfied by Ria's surrender. He sat in silence for a while, collecting his thoughts, before sighing. "Whatever, what's done is done," he said with disappointment. He shrugged his shoulders and looked up at the sky, which was now visible since Dosu and Rias' battle destroyed a lot of the surrounding area. "Guess I've gotta find something new to do." Dosu's lone eye narrowed when he felt a wave of energy surge through the swamp. It wasn't a strong energy wave, but it was noticeable. Summoning his wings, Dosa flew above the tree line to find out what was going on. After searching the skies for a few seconds, he lifted a non-existent eyebrow once he saw what seemed like a large, white, glowing moon flying over the city environment, which was north of Dosu's current location. What in the hell is going on over there? He said to himself in wonder. Rating game dimension, city environment. Standing on top of the tallest skyscraper in the city environment was one Diodora Astaroth, heir of the Astaroth clan, with his ever-present, creepy closed-eye smile. His long cloak was weakly fluttering behind him because of the power oozing from out of his artificial moon, which was hovering a few meters over the blue-haired boy. With Rias gone, that leaves 8 competitors in the devil exam. I've been out of the spotlight for some time now, but I guess now is the time for me to make my first appearance and show these little children just what I can do. He said with a small giggle. With artificial moon, it will call out to everyone in this dimension to come here. I'll be awaiting them and destroy them all with my new powers thanks to a certain little girl. He thought darkly as he crossed his arms over his chest and started to wait for his prey. Rating game dimension, swamp environment. Another pulse of energy flared throughout the swamp, originating from the moon-like object flying over the city environment. Dosa clenched his fist together while thinking, whoever made that spell must have a lump sum of magic, probably even more than most of the high-class youth here, and that thing is calling to me to go near it. Probably some overconfident dumbass trying to lure everyone into one spot. It'll take me a few hours to get over there by foot, time I'll use to recover my magic. Coming to a final decision, Dosa flew out of the swamp environment and landed on the muddy ground of the marshland environment. All right, whoever you are, you have my attention. I'll be sure to make your wait worthwhile. He said as he started his long stretch to the city environment. After Dosa was a long distance away, Suigetsu grew out of a small puddle, sipping on one of his water bottles. That guy is pretty good. If I try to fight against him, I know I'll lose with all that sound he throws around. I almost hurled while watching his battle against that redhead with the boobs. He said with a chuckle, but I should stay away from him for now. His magic specialty is almost built to handle someone like me. Ugh, why did this have to be so hard? He complained. He stared at the artificial moon, which was quite a distance away. I'll stay out of sight for now, said the fish boy, but when I see the opportunity, I'll take it for sure. He finished, sinking back into his mud puddle. Rating game dimension, mountain environment. Partner, what is that thing? It's our signal. Seems like our search won't be for Grant after all. Sikvera's eyes narrowed at the white ball of magic floating in the sky. It was in the city environment, with the desert environment being the only thing separating them from reaching it. They had been searching for hours for an enemy to retire together, but didn't have any luck in finding anyone. Sikvera, however, knew what this meant for them both. Why do I feel like it's calling out to me? Asked Lee, feeling a wave of foreign energy flow throughout his body. That thing is weird. It's a very advanced spell, that's for sure. Said Sikvera, thinking of a game plan. It's supposed to make you feel like that, Lee. It's almost like a flare signal. Whoever is doing this wants everyone to go to their direction. That is where the final battle will be held. So, everybody will be going over there, huh? Asked the green beast, realizing what this turn of events meant for them. Possibly. Started Sikvera, after Rias' retirement, which wasn't long ago. There are only 8 participants left in the tournament. The devil exam will end when there are only 4 people left, meaning that we only have 4 more chances to force retirements and show our skill. Anybody who's smart will there at the city environment, so you can almost certify that there will be a large-scale battle in the near future. Over the past day, we've talked about all of our skills, so I believe our teamwork will help us out tremendously. We just need to stay focused. YOSH. Focus is my middle name. Let's do this, partner. Shouted Lee with enthusiasm. Sikvera rolled her eyes at Lee's childish ways as she continued, judging by the distance, we'll be there in around 20 minutes by flight, but I think we should wait for more competitors to arrive before making out move. This is our chance, Lee. She said, summoning her wings and flying off towards the desert environment, her partner right behind her. Rating game dimension, grassland environment. Sarord crossed his arms as he stared at the new moon in the sky. He snickered as he shook his head. Diodora, while I knew you were skilled, I didn't think that you were so confident in yourself to reveal your location and draw everyone in the devil exams to you. He said with a hearty laugh. Alrighty then, old friend. If you want to fight, then I'll be sure to give you a show. Shouted Sarord with a hunger for battle as he flew off towards the city environment. 2 hours later. Rating game dimension, desert environment. Why the fuck is it taking so long? Shouted Issei as he stomped his way through the deserted desert. Maybe because you're walking through a giant sandbox called the desert, you idiot. Said Drake, the gem blowing on Issei's sacred gear as the ancient dragon spoke. When the new moon was created, Issei wasn't that far off from the city environment. He was where the desert environment met the tundra environment, which made no sense to Issei. Why was a cold environment right next to a hot environment? After seeing the moon, he decided to remain discreet and travel through the desert. Because it was nighttime in the rating game dimension, the desert was cooler instead of being unbearably hot, which made it easier for Issei to travel through the sandy ocean. Why can't I just fly over this bullshit? I'll be tired before I even get to the city environment. He shouted at his partner. We were trying to stay discreet, but you can throw that out of the window because of your loud yelling. Drake countered. Well, excuse me, said Issei with a huff. He understood his partner, but felt like the extra traveling was unnecessary. He was still a good 40 minutes away from the city environment if he continued walking at his current speed. Fine. Summon your wings and get out of here. Just make sure you stay aware of your surroundings. Drake caved, allowing his partner to take to the air to get out of the desert. All right. Issei said happily as he summoned his wings and flew into the air. Now I can get to the city in a couple of minutes. Yeah, glad you're happy now, you lazy perv. Said Drake, mentally rolling his eyes as his partner. I swear it's like you forgot all about your stamina training with Tannen for 3 weeks. There's nothing wrong with saving up on energy, Drake. Said Issei. Drake huffed again, but didn't respond to his partner with words. Taking his silence as the end of the conversation, Issei continued his flight over the massive sandbox, inching closer and closer to the city environment and the moon floating above the landscape. He continued his flight, but his senses picked up on something below him. Ha! He said, stopping mid-flight and looking down at the ground below. He lifted an eyebrow when he saw a glob of sand flying up towards. He inched to his left, letting the sand pass by him harmlessly. What was that? He asked himself, checking the sands to see if he saw anybody below him. After not seeing anything suspicious, he decided to ignore the sand. I guess I'll just go then. But stopped again when he another small glob of sand fly up at him. Okay, what is going on here? He shouted annoyance. Someone is down there. Drake said through his mental connection with Issei, I can sense magic below us. Whoever it is, they're probably using the sands to hide himself. So what do I do? Asked Issei. Ignore them. You need to get out of this desert and to the city. Let them follow you if they want to fight. Ordered the dragon. If you say so. Said Issei, listening to his partner's orders and continued flying. I guess that makes sense because of that moon thingy call everybody. Whoa, WOAH. What the hell is that? In front of Issei was a massive column of sand in the shape of a hand. Catching the red dragon emperor off guard, the massive sand hand slammed its palm into Issei, knocking him out of the air, smashing him into the desert below. Ow. That hurt. Shouted an aggravated Issei as jumped out of his sandy grave in comedic fashion, smoke shooting out of his ears. He instantly summoned his boosted gear and checked the area around him. Okay, bastard. You have my fucking attention now. Where are you? After a few seconds of silence, a small column started to grow from the ground. The sand started to shape into a person, surprising Issei. His eyes widened when the sand shaped together into Gaia, one of the participants of the devil exams. You're Gaia, right? Correct. She muttered, opening her pale green eyes to the world while crossing her arms over her chest, and you are the Red Dragon Emperor, right? She said, her deep but melodic voice filling the air. Yeah. He said with a small glare, and I guess you were the one that made that sand hand too, huh? Correct again. She mumbled, you wish to go to the city environment where Diodora made his fake moon, no? So that's who made it. Thought Issei, yeah, but if you plan on stopping me, you'll have to fight me to do so. He said, flashing his sacred gear at the girl. Gaia blankly stared at Issei, unbothered by Issei's display. Before we begin, we'll be having company soon. Issei raised an eyebrow at Gaia, not understanding what she was saying before hear the sounds of explosion in the distance. Wah! He said to himself while looking behind, the same direction the sounds of explosions were coming from. Issei covered his ears as the explosions grew louder and louder the closer they got. What the hell is this? He shouted as the horrible ringing sound was starting to affect him mentally. Partner. Protect yourself with your balance breaker. It'll protect you from the sound. Commanded Draig. Listening to his partner, Issei summoned his balance breaker, Scale Mail. The harmful sound waves were considerably less painful as he awaited the incoming devil. Suddenly, a flying figure landed next to Issei. These fucking sand arms are getting on my nerves, said the newly arrived Dosu as he dusted himself off. Dosu? Said Issei within his balance breaker. Dosu glanced over to Issei with a small glare. Oh great, you're here, he said with disdain. He perked up when he saw Gaia standing not too far from them. I guess she's the one controlling the sand. Correct, muttered Gaia, not having much to say about his arrival. What happened to you? Said Issei, taking notice to Dosu's tattered clothing. Well, after forcing your king's retirement, Dosu smirked at the spike in Issei's ki. I came over here to see what that moon thing is. The moment my foot touched sand, I'm attacked by massive columns of sand. Took a few hits while making my way over here. You move like a bug. That annoys me, said Gaia to Dosu. Yeah, well, being chased around by sand for half an hour is worse if you ask me, said Dosu, gripping his hands together. I can't even believe I'm about to say this. Hey, red dude. What? Snapped Issei. He didn't like Dosu at all since he was the one that forced Ria's retirement, and there was the time that he threatened them both after the young devil gathering meeting. We should team up. And why in the hell would I do that? Shouted Issei. Ignoring Issei's anger, Dosu continued, we are obliviously at a disadvantage because of the environment we're in. She can control all of this sand around us by will. I say we team up to take her out and get to the city. He's right, Draig said to his partner, it's best you team up with the boy. We don't know how skilled this girl is, especially while she's in her natural habitat. Hold back your hatred for the boy for now to take her down. Issei grunted, fine, but this alliance is over when she's done for. Remember that. He threatened. Dosu chuckled as he entered his battle stance. That's funny. Your master said something similar when we teamed up yesterday. Are you two done? Gaia asked abruptly, you're taking up too much time for my liking. Then we'll make sure to finish you off quickly then, said Dosu, preparing to take down the sand user. Issei Hyodu, half-blooded low-class devil, pawn, and Dosu Kinyuta, full-blooded low-class devil. Versus Gaia, full-blooded low-class devil. Starting off the fight, Gaia used the sand behind her to create a massive wave of sand. The wave continued to be filled with sand as it grew as blocked the sky above them. Both Issei and Dosu's eyes widened as they watched the towering figure grow in size in a matter of seconds. "What in the hell?" muttered Issei as the two was the shadow of the now tsunami-sized wave that blocked the dark sky. "I will not go easy on you two." Gaia muttered darkly, "This tournament is an opportunity." Dosu, not wanting to get crushed by the massive wave, tried to fly away from the sand wave that would crush him. His lone eye widened when he noticed sand wrapped around his ankles, holding him in place. "This isn't good," he muttered to himself. "Hey! What the fuck?" shouted Issei as he tried to pull himself free. His ankles were trapped into the sand, holding them in a strong vice grip. "I can't move." "Great observation, genius," Dosu said with the roll of his lone eye. Issei shouted at him, but he ignored him once again. "We're going to have to defend ourselves then," said Dosu, creating a sonic boom to blast a hole into the crashing sand wave. Issei copied Dosu's idea by shooting the tsunami with a dragon shot that broke through the crashing wave, his body safe from all of the dense sand as it landed around him. Not stopping there, Dosu quickly shot a weak sonic boom to his feet, freeing himself from his bondage. Summoning his wings and flying away from the approaching sand arms that Gaia made, the hunchback flew over to Issei and did the same, freeing him from his trap. "Now go attack her head on. I've got the arms." "No problem," shouted Issei, taking off like a rocket while leaving a dust cloud behind him. Gaia continued to look unbothered as the speeding red dragon emperor continued his way towards her. "Take this," he shouted as he cocked his arm back in preparation for a devastating haymaker. Before he could even reach her though, a thick wall of sand blocked Issei's path. "You think that can stop me?" he yelled while releasing his strength in one strong punch. His fist broke through the wall, but took the brunt of Issei's force, his fist only inches away from Gaia's face. "Idiot," muttered Gaia. Manipulating the sand she used as a barrier, the wall transformed into a sand cocoon, encasing the surprised Issei inside. Before she could make the crushing blow, Dosu appeared after dealing with the stray sand arms, punching the cocoon with a sonic boom. His eyes widened, however, when not even a dent was made in the cocoon. "What?" he mentally shouted while jumping away from the trap. "You are weak," muttered Gaia to Dosu. "Your little sound waves don't affect me." "Penetrate," Issei's voice shouted from inside his personal sand cocoon. Suddenly, Gaia's cocoon burst open and Issei erupted out of it, surprising Gaia. Taking advantage of her being off guard, Issei kicked Gaia with his right foot, blasting her away into a sand heap. "Hell yeah! Take that, you sand witch." Dosu's sweat dropped at Issei's wordplay. "I'd rather pair up with the Gremory now," he muttered under his breath. He perked up when he saw that Gaia's face was cracked as if it was glass. So, she did take some damage from that kick. Of course, she would. "Nobody can take a kick from me without feeling a little sting," said Issei with confidence as he regrouped with the hunchback, "but her sand is really heavy. I could barely punch through it. I had to use my penetrate in order to bust through her sand trap." Dosu's eyes narrowed as he took a closer look at the recovering Gaia. "You see her face? It's cracked like glass. She must have some type of armor covering her real body." "Whoa, that's tough," muttered Issei, "but I can keep hit her. I'll break through that shield so we can finish her off." "Won't happen," Gaia said, interrupting the two boys' conversation. After pushing herself from the ground, Gaia covered her hand in sand and placed it over her face. After a few seconds, she pulled her hand back to reveal her face wasn't cracked anymore. "Seems like we've got to start all over again," said Dosu, creating 3 fire dragons and sending them towards Gaia. Gaia countered by covering her entire body in a cocoon of sand, similar to the one she trapped Issei in. The cocoon withstood Dosu's triple fire dragon attack like it was nothing. "Well, that worked," groaned the boy. Nothing I can't handle, shouted Issei, flying towards Gaia's cocoon. Penetrate, he shouted as he prepared to punch through the cocoon like before. However, before he could reach the cocoon, large spikes grew from the side of the cocoon, pierced Issei's scale mail in multiple places, drawing blood while doing so. Gah! He shouted. Damn it! Said Dosu, flying over to free his comrade. He pulled Issei out of the needle trap and quickly flew away from the large arms that grew from the sand below. They didn't stop as they followed the duo into the air. Releasing the slowly recovering Issei, Dosu summoned 2 white magic circles over his fist and blasted a barrage of sonic booms to the approaching sand arms, destroying them in an instant. Are you all right? He asked Issei as he finished off the rest. Yeah, I think I am at least. Sighed Issei as he repaired his balance breaker. She really caught me off guard with that last stunt. I'm not going to lie, I don't know how we can defeat her with all this sand at her disposal. Said Dosu, she can literally attack us from any direction if we fight on the ground. And she can surround us in the air with her massive sand arms. Finished Issei, so what can we do? That's why I'm trying to come up with a plan. Thought Dosu with a hum, while physical attacks do work, mine won't be strong enough to deal any major damage. This idiot's punches are strong, but he's not fast enough to deliver enough of them to break through her sand shield before being skewered alive by her needles. The only other option I can see working, finding some way to break through her defense and disabling her with my sound attacks. Hey, said Dosu, catching Issei's attention, is it true that your boosted gear allows the user to transfer energy? Yeah, you need some? Asked Issei. Yeah, a lot of it. Said Dosu. What do you plan on doing? Asked Issei, placing his hand on Dosu's shoulder. Draig's voice shouted out transfer. As some of Issei's energy was transferred to Dosu. Dosu's lone eye widened as he felt power overflowing his body. His smirk was hidden underneath his bandages as he replied, I'm about to blow her out of her element. Get your strongest attack ready. No problem. Shouted Issei as he watched Dosu float back down to the sandy grounds of the desert. I know you're watching me through that little thing. Said Dosu, looking at small, floating circle of sand that resembled an eye. Your sand really does counter my abilities well, but everything has a weakness. He muttered as he placed both of his fists into the soft ground under him. His echo speaker started to whir with energy as he called upon the magic given to him by Issei. Get ready, Red Dragon. Gaia watched from within her cocoon as Dosu filled the sand beneath him with his magic. What are you up to? She thought as she continued to watch through her third eye. Dosu smirked behind his bandages as he finished his preparations. Begone. He shouted as he created a sonic boom from underneath the sand. From inside her cocoon, Gaia's lone open eye widened in shock as Dosu aimed his sonic boom at the sand around her, blasting it all away from her. In an impressive display of skill and power, Dosu's sonic boom created a massive cavern of nothingness underneath Gaia, leaving her defenseless as all the sand around her was too far from her to instantly call upon. Holy shit! Shouted Issei, not believing what he was seeing. Dosu literally created a hole in the desert. This guy is insane. Now, Red Dragon! Shouted Dosu, giving him the signal. You got it. Dragon shot. Shouted Issei, conjuring up massive amount of energy before releasing it in one shot. The sight was like a red meteor as it descended down upon Gaia and her awaiting cocoon. Inside of her cocoon, Gaia gritted her teeth as she realized she wouldn't have enough time to call upon the desert sand to use as a shield thanks to Dosu's last attack. Thinking quickly of a plan, Gaia used all of the sand she had from her gourd on her back along with her armor that covered her body to use as a shield. Breaking out of her cocoon, she used all of her available sand to form a weird shield in the form of a demon. Demon Tanaki shield. She muttered as the massive red beam made contact with her shield. Issei's dragon shot pushed down into her shield, forcing it and Gaia deeper and deeper into the cavern, until it exploded, illuminating the dark hole with red light for a few seconds. "Good job, Red Dragon Emperor," said Dosu, floating next to Issei as they watched the explosion die down. "Seems like that made direct contact." "Yeah, but I'm not hearing her retirement announcement," said Issei. "I guess her shield did more than I thought. Those things are really sturdy." "How did you blow up a part of the desert though?" "That was wicked. Sand particles are very light, but compacted with a lot, and it becomes extremely heavy. All I had to do was break up the sand bonds by sending vibrations through the ground, loosening it. Then, I blew it up with my sonic boom," explained the one-eyed hunchback. "It's science." By now, the explosions had ceased. The sand in the surrounding area started to fill up the massive cavern, falling into the basin and filling it like water to a cup. The duo continued to wait as the cavern was halfway full, but still no retirement announcement was made. "She really must have survived then," said Dosu, "but she had to take some type of damage. I'm not going to dig her out, so I'm heading to the city environment. This desert is depressing to look at anyway. I might as well follow," said Issei, recalling his balance breaker armor while scratching his head. "That is, if we can keep this alliance going for a while." Dosu smirked underneath his bandages. "Even though I retired your precious king?" Dosu mocked. Issei growled under his breath. "Even though you did that, Rias understood that this was a tournament. She would understand that I'm teaming up with you just to further myself." Dosu laughed. "All right, Hayadu. That makes sense. Can't say that I wouldn't have done the same." Sensing a disturbance beneath them, Dosu looked down to the sand cavern, which was still filling with sand. A hand breached the surface, surprising both Dosu and Issei. "Seems like she's made it back to the living world." Gaia pulled herself from the sand with a huff. Her face was cut up, along with the rest of her body. Blood was dripping down her face and arms, the only exposed parts of her body. Her clothes were tattered in various places and her gourd was nowhere to be seen. She growled when she looked up to Issei and Dosu in the sky, her ki filling the area like a flood. "You won't make it out of this desert alive," she muttered. "I'll finish this off. I need to have another retirement under my belt," said Issei, calling forth Ascalon from his boosted gear. Dosu only nodded and watched as Issei descended down to the ground to finish Gaia off. Issei landed softly in front of the struggling Gaia. "I won't make this painful. I just want to advance in this tournament," he said as he pulled his arm back. Gaia stared death in the eyes with a growing ferocity. A wave of uncertainty filled Issei's heart as her blank eyes bore into his mind. His body started to tremble, and his world started to fade until everything was dark. The only thing visible was Gaia's pale green eyes peering into his soul. I can't move," Issei thought as his arm trembled, not responding to his commands. "Do it now," Drake shouted within Issei's mind, snapping him out of his fear-induced trance. The dark world he was in shattered like glass. He blinked once before his focus was back on Gaia, whose hand was inching closer to his throat. He reared his arm forward to stop her, but was too late as she wrapped her hand around his throat. The sand he was standing on moved quickly like it was alive, entrapping Issei's entire body, in an instant with his face the only body part visible. "ACH." He coughed as she applied pressure to his throat. "The Red Dragon Emperor," started Gaia, ignoring Issei's coughing fit, "is weak to even a simple paralysis spell." Do it." He gasped out with a glare, knowing that this was possible his end. "Not yet," she said, confusing him. "You're the bait." Suddenly, Dosu landed next to Gaia with the intention of delivering a sonic-enhanced punch to the sand user's face. The sand beneath them moved like it had a mind of its own, creating a shield in front of Gaia and blocking Dosu's fist. "Boom," muttered Dosu as he activated his close-range sonic boom. Issei closed his eyes as the sonic boom exploded, creating a sandstorm from the force of the explosion. Issei coughed as the sand cloud subsided after a few seconds. His eyes widened when he saw that Gaia was unharmed. Another shield of sand was in between Dosu's fist and Gaia's face. The sand behind Gaia was blown away, the sonic boom paving a curved ditch that stretched for meters. Dosu's lone eye widened as he tried to attack Gaia's inner ear with his sound manipulation, but she didn't seem affected by it at all. What? The hunchback said in shock. My ears are filled with sand. Responded Gaia, I can't even hear what's going on right now, your sound-based abilities are useless. BBU-. I can read lips. She interrupted, now die. Sand coffin. A cocoon of sand wrapped itself around Dosu quicker than he can jump away. His entire body was covered in sand, unlike Issei's, whose face was still visible. Hey! Let him go! Shouted Issei as he struggled to free himself. Gaia ignored Issei's yells as she clenched her hand, forming a fist, sand funeral. The sand around Dosu's hidden body pressed against him with formidable force, something his body couldn't handle. Issei's eyes widened in fear as blood exploded from inside the coffin, landing on his face as Dosu's body was crushed with no sympathy. A blue light flashed from within the coffin, signaling Dosu's retirement. Dosu Kinyuta has retired. The announcer voice rang throughout the dimension. Issei couldn't even shake in fear because of the sand wrapped around his body, holding him still. Gaia's pale green eyes turned to him, causing his heart to leap in fear as she held out her hand again, similar to how she did with Dosu. I didn't kill him, said Gaia, surprising Issei. My moves are too slow to kill somebody within this dimension. They would have recalled his body before I could do any permanent damage to him. Issei couldn't respond as he continued to watch Gaia's hand slowly close. He tried to break free from his captivity, but couldn't because of the strong force the sand was exerting on his body. Calm down, partner, said Drake. She's not going to kill you. Wah. How can you tell? He asked his dragon partner. I don't sense any ki coming from her at all. All of her anger was centered towards your former ally. I would finish you now, but I need you later to combat against the Bael and Astaroth. Stated Gaia, surprising Issei with her confession, but for now, underground you go. Issei's body, along with the sand trapping him, suddenly sunk deep into the sand beneath him, swallowing him fully. The sand slithered back to its original position, as if nothing had happened. Gaia sighed as she lowered her arm. She closed her eyes and concentrated, mediating for a while. Manipulating the sand behind her, a large clump of it grew from the group and twisted together until it formed the shape of her gourd. Latching the gourd to the strap on her back, Gaia opened her eyes, looking up at the dark night sky of the desert. The large red moon that shone in the sky was lighting the dark desert somewhat, but extra light was coming from the fake moon floating atop the city environment. She stared at the fake moon for a while, having a moment for herself, but was interrupted when a splash of water fell on top her head. Seems like you handled things here, said a voice from behind her. Gaia sighed as she turned around, seeing the smirking face of one Suigetsu. He had poured out one of his water bottles on top of her just to annoy her. Why did you do that, you imbecile? Gaia asked, holding back her murderous intent. To cool you off. You've been in this desert for a while, he said with the same smirk. Whatever, said Gaia, crossing her arms over her chest. Do you know where the others are? Yup. I saw the green guy and Agar's heiress flying over the desert to the city environment not too long ago. Not too sure about Serorg though, said Suigetsu while scratching his head in thought. Gaia glanced up to the moon floating above a skyscraper in the city environment. Serorg isn't known for his magic abilities. I have the Red Dragon Emperor trapped under us, and those other two are flying through the desert. That must be Daidora's work then, she summed up. Yup. I guess we should make our way over there then, said Suigetsu, his wings appearing from his back. Remember the deal, 2 kills for you, 2 kills for me. The only response he got was Gaia's body sinking into the sand beneath her, disappearing from sight. Suigetsu rolled his eyes as he took off towards the city environment, always trying to be the cool guy. "I mean girl," he muttered as he continued his flight. After a while, with Suigetsu and Gaia far gone, Issei erupted out of the desert sand, armored in his balance breaker. He recalled his scale mail and dropped to the ground, taking deep breaths of air. "Finally!" he shouted as he wrapped his arms around his stomach. "Finally!" Air. That sand girl knew what she was doing. She outplayed the both of you easily. "She's a dangerous opponent," said Drake from Issei's gauntlet. "Why, yeah, shows how much work I need to do," said Issei in between gasp. "I don't find that to be true. That girl had a major advantage by having an endless amount of sand to call upon. If you would have fought her or an even playing field, you could have dealt more damage to her," said Drake. "She probably went to the city environment to go see who made that weird moon spell. You're lucky that you're still in this tournament, but when you see her again, you'll be ready." "Yeah, did you hear how she wanted me to fight against Serorg and the Astaroth? I think his name was Dora or something. I wonder why?" Issei asked as he rolled on his back. "Because you are strong," said the ancient dragon. "You have the ability to double your strength every 10 seconds, something that will come in handy when facing an opponent like Naruto Bael, a stamina freak that can take a lot of punishment. She probably believes that she can't beat him, so she wants you to do so," explained the dragon. "I guess, but I thought that he and Lee would have fought again," said Issei. He sighed before pushing himself up. "Okay, break's over. I've got to get back in this thing." "Be careful," warned Drake. "Only the strongest people remain in this tournament, and they're all headed to the city. You'll have to watch your own back for every second if you want even a chance at winning this thing." "Got it," shouted Issei, summoning his wings and headed towards the city environment. A few minutes later. Rating game dimension, city environment. "So, this is the place that you were spawned at, Lee. This really does look like an actual city." "YOSH. That is correct, partner." Lee and Sikvera were both walking on a sidewalk as they continued their journey to the highest skyscraper in the city. They had already arrived at the city environment and decided on taking their time to the skyscraper where the fake moon was at. They sensed the moment that they arrived in the unique environment that they were the only ones there, so they took the opportunity to take a break from all the travel it took to get where they currently were. Sikvera pushed up her glasses on her nose as she looked up at the dark sky. The skyscraper with the fake moon was only a small distance away from the duo. "It's only a matter of time now," muttered Sikvera. "I believe that this will be where the last battle of the tournament will be held. And now that there are only 7 devils left in the exams, we only have the opportunity of forcing the retirement of 3 other devils," stated Lee. "Hopefully we can share those 3 retirements between the both of us, but the others are probably having similar thoughts. This last battle will be the most difficult because everyone will be desperate to prove themselves," said Sikvera. "Don't worry, partner," said Lee, giving Sikvera a thumbs up with a gleaming smile. "Will prevail against the rest. You have my word." A small, light-hearted smile grew on the Agar's heiress face. "Thanks, Lee. I'm sure we'll both do good." The two continued their walk in a comfortable silence until they finally made it to the tallest skyscraper of the city. From the ground, they couldn't even see the top because the huge building pasted through the clouds, but they could see the shining moon radiating light in the dark city. "So how do you want to go about this, partner?" Lee asked. "Whoever that is up there probably knows that we're already here. Meaning trying to sneak up on this unknown person isn't a good plan. I say we meet this person face to face and take them out together," she deduced, calling forth her devil wings. "Are you ready?" "Yes, ma'am," said Lee, summoning his wings. Sikvera nodded and took off in the sky, her martial artist partner following her closely. Passing through the clouds, the two continued their flight until they were over the skyscraper. staring down at the fake moon and its owner. Seek Vera glared as she recognized the smiling face of Diodora Astaroth. Diodora. She grumbled, I should have known you were the cause behind all of this. Well, hello there, you two. Said the smiling Astaroth with a wave, seems like you two are the first to make it to the final showdown. I'm glad you could make. You've got a lot of nerve revealing your location for everybody to come here. You must have a lot of confidence in yourself. She looked over to the shining moon that Diodora created, and this spell must have burnt through a lot of your magic reserves to create and withhold for so long. Oh no. I'm fine. Honestly. Said Diodora with a chuckle, while this is a very high-class spell, it's nothing I can't handle. Unlike your partner, his voice changed into a darker tone as he glanced over to Lee. Lee growled, just because I'm not the best at using spells doesn't mean that I'm not strong. Even though you can't properly use your magic effectively, that's not the only reason why you're a disgrace. Said Diodora, you're just a low-class devil trying to play with your betters. I really do have a problem with all these low-class devils invading a tournament not meant for them. Your presence here is disrespectful to not only those who deserve to be here, but to the rookie 4 members of the past. They wouldn't want you here, and I don't want you here. A slow veil of green magic glowed around Diodora's body as his anger started to spike. The only reason why you're here is because of the Satans trying to spread equality. Ha! What a joke! If you want something then earn it! Shouted the boy. Lee gritted his teeth at the Astaroth, I deserve to be here. Then prove it, scum. Said Diodora with a creepy smile, prove to me that your low-class blood can prevail against my high-class blood. Earn your worth. Lee was about to charge at the laughing Astaroth, but Seek Vera held him back. Wait, Lee. He's trying to rile you up to get in your head. Calm down and think. I'm here with you on this. Lee took a few deep breaths, calming his nerves. Thanks, partner. His words are very disrespectful, and I don't like that. I know, and we'll take him down. Together. I'm not too sure about that, little girl, said Diodora with another laugh, but if you feel confident in yourself, then by all means, prove me wrong and defeat me. Rock Lee, half-blooded low-class devil, Rook, and Seek Vera Agar's, full-blooded high-class devil, King. Versus Diodora Astaroth, full-blooded high-class devil, King. Lee landed on the rooftop with Diodora and disappeared in a burst of speed, planning on blitzing Diodora with his speed to attack. Appearing behind the Astaroth with his right fist aimed at his back, Lee attempted to deliver a strong punch, but was surprised when a light blue barrier blocked Lee's fist. Diodora laughed and created a green magic circle, shooting a green bolt of magic at Lee in which he dodged. Your little punches won't reach me. Seek Vera created a field of magic circles, all of them releasing beams of energy aimed at Diodora. However, his blue shield held strong, blocking the barrage of magical blast like they were nothing. Ha ha ha. Weaklings. The both of you. Let me show you real power. Diodora yelled, creating 2 red balls of energy with red lightning dancing around the surface. Both death balls flew at Lee and Seek Vera at surprisingly high speeds. That's a lot of energy. Seek Vera thought as she instantly countered by conjuring up a multi-layer barrier to block the death ball along with its following explosion that broke through many of her shields. She grunted as she was pushed back in the air from the force of the blow. When did Diodora get this strong? She muttered under her breath. Lee dodged the death ball aimed for him with his speed, but was surprised when Diodora followed his attack with 5 streams of magical beams of energy. Dodging past all of them with his unnatural agility, Lee tried to attack Diodora again, this time with a kick, but the same light blue shield appeared around him, protecting him any attack. What is this? Lee said, trying to break through Diodora's shield with a few punches. Your little silly punches and kicks aren't going to break through my indestructible barrier, said Diodora with a snap of his fingers. Suddenly, Diodora's blue barrier was coated in lighting, filling Lee's body with blue electricity. Lee! Sikvera shouted, fearful of the damage Lee was receiving from. Thinking on her toes, Sikvera flew over to Lee while sending a small beam of magic at him. It didn't have any real power backed behind it, but it was enough to push Lee out of the electric field he was previously trapped in. The green beast gritted his teeth as he landed on his back with a grunt that hurt. He gasped out. "Are you alright, Lee?" Sikvera asked as she landed next to him. "Ha ha ha ha. Pathetic," laughed out Diadora. "How do you plan on defeating me when you can't even break through my shield?" "Damn it, he's right," said Sikvera, pushing her glasses up on her nose. "That barrier is a very high-class spell. It's a temporary shield that only appears when something gets too close to the caster. It allows him to focus at one place instead of spreading your magic equally with a circular or magic circle barrier. So the only way to get around him is to attack him at two different directions?" asked Lee as he stood up. "Possibly, but I bet you he could just block that as well. However, I do have a plan," muttered Sikvera. "Aw, look at the little kids coming up with a plan," mocked Diadora. "Give up. You won't win against someone of my stature," he shouted while shooting multiple magical beams at the duo. "Just wait for my signal, Lee. Stay close," shouted Sikvera, flying to her right. Lee disappeared, dodging the magic beams, and waited Sikvera to start her plan. "Alright, just got to get close enough to his barrier to see if this will work," she thought while dodging Diadora's magic bolts and countering with her laser strikes. "Not gonna happen, Agars," Diadora yelled, creating more magic circles to shoot more blast at her. The speed and power of the blast drastically increased, something Sikvera took notice to as she conjured up a strong barrier in front of her. "Damn it. I can't get close to him like this. He's overpowering me with his magic," she thought while gritting her teeth, adding extra magic to her shield so it can withstand Diadora's powerful attacks. Her senses kicked in, screaming at her that something was coming from above. Sure enough, another death ball of Diadora's was only seconds away from colliding into her. "I can't dodge in time. Leaf Hurricane," shouted Lee with a spin kick, knocking the death ball away from Sikvera and into a nearby skyscraper. It exploded on contact, completely obliterating the top of the large structure. "You okay, partner?" Lee asked Sikvera. "Yeah," she said, taking notice of the destruction Diadora's attack caused. How can he throw out all of these large-scale attacks, have a continuous barrier himself, and keep feeding magic into his artificial moon spell and not be tired at all? Asked Sikvera, generally shocked by the amount of magic Diadora had. "I don't know, but we'll have to find a way around it," said Lee, dodging more magical blast. "Help me get in close," shouted Sikvera over the various explosions happening around them. Lee flew in front of his partner to block another death ball, and Sikvera covered Lee's back, matching all of the other streams of magic with her own while conjuring a barrier around the duo. Lee pulled Sikvera out of the way when Diadora aimed 3 lightning dragons in their direction and blitzed pasted them with his superior speed. While not used to moving at such high speeds, Sikvera gained her bearings and used her time magic to slow down any incoming attacks. "Wow. You two are really working together. How cute," Diadora said with a yawn. With a snap of his fingers, he created 10 more blue lightning dragons. Their eyes gleamed a dangerous yellow as they locked onto the 2 devils. With a vicious roar, they all charged forward, flying at the duo with evil intentions. Sikvera's eyes gained a green veil of magic as she activated her time magic, slow. She muttered once the dragons were close enough. Suddenly, the dragons started to move in slow motion, affected by Sikvera's clan magic. Leaf Rock destroying rise. Moving at insane speeds, Lee destroyed all of the lightning dragons by flying through them with his elbow, piercing through the lightning beast like they were nothing. The moment he reappeared next to Sikvera, all of the dragons exploded at the same time, dazzling the skies in an electric shower. Using the explosion as cover, Sikvera flew back down to the skyscraper where Diodora was standing. Stretching out her hands, Sikvera's magic covered her entire magic as she started to chant a spell. Diodora hummed, sensing Sikvera behind him. And what do you plan on doing, little Agars? He asked with a smirk. Now, Lee! Shouted Sikvera, ignoring Diodora's taunt. Taking heed to his partner's signal, Lee flew down to Diodora, right arm cocked back. This again? Didn't you learn last time what happens to bugs like you that get to close? Shouted Diodora, activating his barrier. However, the Astaroth's eyes narrowed when his spell wasn't activating like usual. What's this? He said in confusion. With his insane speed, Lee was able to bypass Diodora's barrier before it could block him, allowing the green beast to deliver a devastating right hook to Diodora's face. Uif! Lee screeched as he made contact. The force of the blow knocked Diodora off the top of the skyscraper, zooming through the dark skies and slamming into the glass of a nearby skyscraper. Breaking through a few floors, Diodora was finally able to stop his descent by flexing his wings out, using them as an air brake. Diodora slowly reached up to his right cheek with his hand, feeling the blood leak down from his nose. My face! My beautiful face! Rage filled the Astaroth's body as he clenched his hands together. How dare you! How dare Y dash before he could continue his pitiful screaming, a barrage of magic bolts impacted into his stomach, forcing him through the wall and back outside. About time we hit him, said Sikvera, her outstretched hand smoking from all of the magic she released. He is very annoying. YOSH! That was an amazing combination, Sikvera! Shouted Lee in excitement. We should do that again. Sikvera smiled as she pushed her glasses up on her nose. Thank you, Lee, but don't drop your guard. He'll be back for more. Yes, ma'am, he said, doing a few warm-up jumping jacks. While she wanted to celebrate with her partner, Sikvera's eyes narrowed when she felt like something off. Lee, do you dash? Suddenly, the ground beneath Lee cracked open and Serorg burst through, grabbing Lee by his throat and pulling him in the air. Lee! She cried out. Seems like it's our time to shine again, Green Beast. The newly arrived Serorg said with a wide smile, glad he could battle Lee again. Lee tried to break free from Serorg's grip, but the Bael airs was stronger than expected. Come with me, said Serorg as he changed direction, headed back down to the top of skyscraper. Sikvera had to fly away in order to dodge Serorg crashing back down into the top of skyscraper, using Lee as a shield as he broke through every floor and anything in their way. With Diodora. Those peasants dare damage me? Shouted the privileged Astaroth. After digging his way out of the rubble of another skyscraper he crashed into because of Sikvera's surprise attack, the young devil was flying back where he was having his fight with said girl and Lee. Making his way back over to the warzone, he raised an eyebrow when he took notice that the fighting had moved from the top of the skyscraper to inside of it. Serorg had joined the battle and was sparring against Lee in an epic clash of fist. Diodora watched as the two broke through floor after floor, not caring that their battle was literally tearing the tower apart. A devious idea sparked within the Astaroth's mind as he flew back down to the base of the tower. Seems like those fools forgot about me. Let's fix that, he shouted, shooting magical blast after blast at the base of skyscraper. After completely destroying the foundation, Diodora smirked as he heard the large structure groaned as it started its descent down to the ground. And now I wait, he said, his evil smirk growing in size. Inside of the tower, Lee was knocked back by a powerful punch from the Bael air. After finally prying Serorg off of him earlier, the two went at each other in frenzy of punches and kicks. The fight was so great that Lee had to shout to Sikvera to retreat just so that she wouldn't get caught in the midst of their epic fight. Recovering from Serorg's jab, Lee threw a nearby office chair at Serorg to serve as a distraction. Serorg huffed as he dismantled the chair with a kick, but that was all Lee needed as he appeared below the Bael and delivered a devastating uppercut to his chin. Grunting, Sarorg regained his stance and blocked Lee's follow-up punch along with a kick. Swerving to his left, Sarorg kicked at Lee's ribs, intending on knocking him out of the building. Lee blocked the attempt of the destruction of his rib cage with his right arm and jabbed with his left only to be met with Sarorg's own jab. The two eyes met in an intense stare-off. Both were smirking at each other as they exerted one's force upon the other. They were at a stalemate for a while, but Sarorg decided enough was enough as he suddenly headbutted Lee, surprising the green beast with the unexpected blow. Taking advantage of his small window opportunity, Sarorg grabbed Lee's arm and slammed him into the ground behind him before jumping on top of him, breaking through another floor and slamming into the next one underneath. Lee has crossed his arms over his chest to guard, but his back ached with pain from the impact of breaking through the floor. Not liking the position he was in, Lee shouted, "Leaf Whirlwind!" Twisting his body in a way that forced Sarorg off of him and creating some space, Lee appeared in front of Sarorg in a burst of speed and elbowed him in his jaw, pushing him back somewhat. After regaining his balance, Sarorg smirked at Lee before spitting out a small amount of blood. "Seems like you haven't slacked in your training, Lee," shouted Sarorg, pleased with his fight against his rival so far. "This is really enjoyable." YOSH. Sarorg, you never disappoint me with your attacks. They're packed with youth. Lee yelled with excitement, jumping from one foot to the other. The green beast was thoroughly enjoying his battle against Sarorg, so much so that he almost forgot that he was in a tournament. The two were about to charge at one another again, but were interrupted when they suddenly lost balance. The room they were in started to turn at a slat as the building started to fall down. "What's going on?" shouted Lee. "That damn Diodora probably," Sarorg thought. Without consulting with Lee, the Bael summoned his wings and burst through a nearby window, leaving Lee by himself. "Hey! Hey!" shouted Lee, following after the muscular teen. Making his way outside of the building, Lee's eyes widened as he watched the building he was just in descend into the ground below, creating a massive dust cloud to fill the air around him. Covering his mouth with his hand as he entered the dust cloud, Lee searched for his battle partner but couldn't find him anywhere. His ears perked up when he heard the sounds of explosions going off in the distance. "What's going on over there?" he thought as he flew over to the small sparks of light within the dust cloud. Landing on what was a concrete road, Lee ran over to where he saw the flashes of light, but didn't encounter anyone. YOSH. Is anyone there? Lee shouted. He didn't receive an answer, causing the martial artist to deject in sadness. "Oh, I thought I could keep on fighting. Now that I'm thinking about it, where is my partner?" he said with a scratch of his head. "Gotcha!" shouted a voice behind him. Using his insane flexibility, Lee leaned back, avoiding a sword strike from behind that would have decapitated him. He saw that it was Suigetsu behind him with a devious grin, flashing his sharp teeth at the battle junkie. "You're pretty good." Lee flipped over Suigetsu and landed behind the shark boy. Using his insane speed, Lee charged at Suigetsu with his elbow aimed at his back. However, Lee was shocked when his entire body went through Suigetsu's body with ease. "Hee. Fool," said Suigetsu, slashing at Lee's exposed back, cutting deep into his flesh and drawing a lot of blood. Lee hissed as a sharp burning sensation from his new gash spread throughout his back. Ignoring it for the task at hand, Lee sprung towards Suigetsu with the intent on delivering punishment, but again, his fist went through his stomach like nothing. "What is this? You never learn, do you?" Suigetsu said with the same grin as he grabbed Lee's head with his free hand. The muscle on his once small arm suddenly expanded to sizes comparable to Sarorg, bulging with disgustingly defined veins dancing over his skin. Spinning his sword with his other hand until the point was centered at Lee's exposed neck, Suigetsu shouted, "Time to die," he said as he closed in. However, Lee shocked Suigetsu by grabbing the approaching sword with his bare hands. Suigetsu's eyes slightly widened when he saw that Lee's hands weren't even bleeding from grabbing the shard edge of his sword. "What's this?" he said, generally interested in Lee's lack of injury. "Yosh. My bandages are strengthened by seals provided by my master," Lee said before continuing the battle. Suigetsu was interrupted as Lee's left foot kicked through his private area and split the blue-haired teen in half. While it would have been a death blow to any other devil, because Suigetsu was made out of water, he survived, but couldn't hold on to Lee any longer. "What type of devil are you?" asked Lee, retreating from the recovering Suigetsu. Once both halves formed back together, Suigetsu shot the green beast his same grin, 1 in a trillion. "Now, Gaia." Suddenly, the dust that surrounded them entrapped Lee in a cocoon of sand. It was a move that Lee couldn't avoid, because the entire area was still submerged from the dust the destruction of the skyscraper caused earlier. It was Gaia that walked over to Suigetsu from the dust cloud. Stopping next to her partner, she blankly stared at her cocoon of sand that trapped Lee. "That was easier than expected," she muttered. "It was," said Suigetsu with a shrug, "just a small illusion spell. You mixing your sand into the dust in the air, and he's in our grasp. This will make 2 retirements for you. Now all you have to do is help me force 2 retirements, and we'll be a part of the Rookie 4 together. Doesn't that sound nice, eh?" Gaia ignored Suigetsu's shark-like grin as she held out her hand, intent of finishing the job. However, before she could crush Lee to death, the sand entrapping him exploded, surprising the duo. "What the hell?" shouted Suigetsu, using his arms as shields to block the sand from hitting his face. Gaia glared as Lee landed on the ground, his skin dark red as if it was blood. She noticed that his eyes lacked pupils, and a green hue of energy surrounded his body. "What are you?" she thought as she prepared her sand for anything the beast in front of her was preparing to do. Lee stood tall as he took a few deep breaths, calming his nerves. His red skin slowly reverted to his normal white skin, and he lost the green veil of magic over his body. Opening his eyes, Lee's black pupils had returned, signifying that he had deactivated his 8 gates technique. "Sneak attacks are not honorable," said Lee, shaking his finger at the 2. "If you wanted to fight me, all you had to do was ask." Suigetsu took a small step back from Lee as a small drop of sweat ran down his forehead. "This one, he broke through your coffin. Nobody has ever done that before." "I know," said Gaia. "You go. I'll handle him." "With Seek Vera." Seek Vera growled as she inspected the scene in front of her. Not only did Diodora find her again, but so did Serorg and the newly arrived Issei. She had escaped the dangers of the falling skyscraper only to be face-to-face with Serorg. The 2 started an intense fight that attracted both Diodora and then Issei into the fold, creating a war zone. Seek Vera retreated for a small break to think of a plan in peace. Serorg and the Red Dragon Emperor are close-ranged fighters while Diodora and I are long-ranged. If I could get Diodora to focus on Serorg, then that would give me the opportunity of handling Hyuta first by myself, and if things get too risky, I'll escape using my time magic. I just hope Lee is doing alright. I haven't heard any announcement of his retirement, so he should be fine for now. I need to rendezvous with him as soon as possible once I get to the chance to do so. Her time alone was interrupted when the ceiling in the other room was destroyed as Issei, covered in his balance breaker, smashed through it easily like it was nothing. Seek Vera was hiding in a closet with the door slightly ajar, giving her enough space to see Issei's back. So he's here. Maybe Serorg and Diodora are already fighting one another, and he decided to look for me, she thought while hiding her presence. Where is she? She heard Issei say, "I know I saw her fly in this direction." Glancing from his left to right, Issei tried to find a sign of the Agar's heiress whereabouts, but to no avail. He huffed as he walked out of the building, entering the darkened night of the city environment. Damn it. I'm gonna need another retirement if I want to be a part of the Rookie 4. Just one won't be enough for sure. Sikvera skillfully got as close as possible to Issei while chanting a spell as quietly as possible. Issei's attention was drawn from the night sky to the glowing green seal beneath him. Nanny? Suddenly, his entire body was encased in green magic, freezing him in place. Sikvera sighed as she created another magic seal, intending on hitting Issei with her most powerful attack to force his retirement. Seems like that plan worked. She muttered as she gathered her energy together into one point. However, her eyes widened in shock as Issei's body was cloaked in red energy before breaking free of her spell. "What?" she shouted in total shock. "Nice try, blonde. I'm not that easy to trick," he shouted, charging towards Sikvera. Sikvera used the magic she conjured up to shot multiple magical beams at Issei, but Issei stopped them all by summoning Ascalon and slicing through them easily. Following through his movements, Issei sped towards Sikvera to knock her out with one punch, but was blocked by a magic barrier she summoned at the last moment. Sikvera's eyes glowed a menacing green, slowing down Issei's movements and giving her enough time to fly away from the Red Dragon Emperor while destroying the building she was in with a few shots of energy, burying Issei under the rubble. However, that bought the Agar's heiress only a few seconds as Issei burst through the rubble and flew at her at incredible speeds. Recalling Ascalon, Issei's fist collided into a new barrier Sikvera created, destroying it and knocking Sikvera out of the air. He became stronger and faster so quickly, she thought, as a small stream of blood escaped from the side of her mouth. Colliding on the rough concrete ground beneath her, she quickly crafted a new magic circle. This time, it was a large green circle that hovered over the ground. She glared up at the approaching Issei as she muttered, "Slow." Suddenly, Issei's body started moving in slow motion again. A green field of magic stretched out for meters with Sikvera in the middle. It was the same time barrier she used to retrieve of her phoenix tears a night before. Creating multiple seals behind her, Sikvera blasted Issei out of her time field with multiple magic blasts, slamming him into a nearby building. Sikvera's attention was pulled away from Issei's recovering form as the building next to her was destroyed as Serorg's body burst through it and skidded into the ground. Stepping out of his personal crater with a huff, Serorg had just enough time to block multiple streams of magic with his bare hands. "This is interesting, Diadora. I didn't know you had so much magic to throw around like this. When did you acquire of such power?" Serorg asked Diadora, who was floating in the air above them. The Astaroth heir laughed cockily. "Why, little Serorg, I've always had this power. I am Diadora Astaroth after all, heir of the legendary Astaroth clan and soon to be winner of this tournament," he finished with a large grin. Sikvera rolled her eyes at his arrogance and shot a barrage of concentrated laser beams at the Astaroth. Diadora replied by conjuring the same barrier that protected him during his battle against Lee and Sikvera. Sikvera's laser did nothing to his powerful barrier, diminishing once they made contact with it. "Such a disgrace. Is that really all you have, Sikvera? The Agars really don't have much to offer in terms of talent." However, Sikvera's attack didn't serve to hurt Diadora. It served as a distraction for Issei to fly behind him, penetrate. He shouted, his fist connecting to Diadora's barrier. However, Diadora's barrier even withstood Issei's penetrate ability. Diadora smirked as he watched Issei quiver in pain from the lightning Diadora manipulated through his barrier. "How stupid. You, a reincarnated devil, actually believes he can harm me," shouted Diadora with a laugh. "I can," said Serorg, appearing behind the laughing Astaroth. Rearing his arm back, Serorg's fist impacted against Diadora's seemingly indestructible barrier. Spider web cracks dance along the surface of Diadora's barrier, but it didn't fully break. Diadora's evil grin only grew in size as he manipulated lightning into Serorg's body, just like Issei. Serorg's scream of pain filled the area, suffering the consequence of challenging Diadora's barrier. "Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Do you see now why I'm the best?" he shouted with a mad grin. creating a purple magic circle. 3 massive purple serpents of magic shot out and bit down on both Issei and Serorg. The serpents brought the 2 young devils back to the crowd, crashing into the hard concrete of the city environment's roads. The 3rd serpent chased after Sikvera, intending on doing the same. She tried to slow the speeding serpent down with her time magic, but the persistent serpent was unaffected by her magic and bit down on her midsection, dragging and crashing her into the ground below. Diodora's laughter increased tenfold as he watched Sikvera's body impact into the ground. "You weaklings! You don't understand real power," he shouted as his body was surrounded a dark, purple aura. Black serpents of energy with red eyes danced around his body as he continued exerting energy, filling the area in a sense of dread and death. Diodora was about to continue his banter about being great, but his senses warned him of something coming from behind. Using his wings to move to the right, he avoided an overhead swipe of Suigetsu's sword. "AWWW, come on! Not again!" shouted Suigetsu as landed on the ground. "How stupid of you to try to attack me with my back turned. Here's your punishment!" shouted Diodora, summoning 3 more purple serpents to take care of Suigetsu. "Looks like I'll have to get serious with this guy," Suigetsu muttered, summoning a magic circle to his right. Reaching inside of the circle, Suigetsu pulled out a massive butcher knife-like sword and sliced through all of the serpents in an impressive display of strength. Sikvera watched Suigetsu destroy Diodora's serpents from her personal crater. She groaned as she pushed debris off of her and shakily stood up. "I can't just watch this, I need to find a way to fight back." She glanced over to Serorg, who was already standing even though he was injured. The fangs of Diodora's serpent pierced through Serorg's rough skin. However, he was moving as if unaffected. "He's trained for situations like this, but me." She applied pressure to the puncture wound on her stomach with her hand. "At this rate, we're going to lose. He has too much magic to counter everything we throw at him. The only small amount of success we had was me using my time magic to slow down the formation of his barrier, but nobody here is as fast as Lee." Thinking of a small plan that could work, Sikvera trudged over to Serorg. The Bael noticed her from the corner of his eye, but didn't try to attack her because he didn't sense any killing intent from the Agars. That and she looked heavily injured. "I assume you need help taking Diodora down?" "Yes." "Can you find a way to get him on the ground?" "I'm going to set up various traps to drain some of his magic." "Maybe that can slow him down?" she asked. Serorg nodded. "I'll see what I can do. I'll try to get those 2 in on the plan as well," said Serorg, mentioning Issei and Suigetsu, who were currently battling against Diodora in the sky. "Fuck you!" shouted Issei, blitzing past Diodora's serpent and punching through multiple magical attacks. Suigetsu backed up the armored half-devil by slicing through any remaining serpents with his broadsword. "How does he have this much magic?" said Suigetsu, slowly being overwhelmed by the barrage of serpents trying to tear into his flesh. "With all of these big attacks he's throwing out, he should be tired by now." "Because I'm better than you." Diodora laughed, summoning a plethora of elemental dragons. "Holy shit!" shouted Suigetsu. His eyes widened as all of the dragons shot towards the duo, intending on forcing their retirement. The shark-like boy couldn't find a way out of his current predicament of fighting off the persistent serpents from swallowing him whole. Issei, creating a small orb of energy, shouted "Dragon Shot!" A massive beam of red energy tore through the air, disintegrating all of Diodora's dragons and serpents in one shot. Even Diodora himself was caught by the blast, but wasn't harmed at all as he manipulated the magic from his barrier in front of him. "Try to knock him down to the ground," said Serorg as he passed by Issei, heading straight for Diodora. Issei followed after Serorg, understanding that a small alliance was made between the two. Once Issei's dragon shot had faded away, a perfectly unharmed Diodora was met with the sight of Issei and Serorg on his left and right side respectively. Thinking quickly, he focused his barrier's magic to his left and right sides to defend against the two. Issei's kick was blocked by Diadora's barrier, but Serorg surprisingly broke through the barrier. The serpents dancing along Diadora's body instantly jumped at Serorg, their dangerous fangs ready to pierce through flesh and bone. "Not today!" shouted the incoming Suigetsu, slicing through all of the serpents from above with his Kubikiribocho. Silently thanking Suigetsu for his help, Serorg's speed increased as he flies over the blue-haired powerhouse. Faster than Diadora could repair his barrier, Serorg drop-kicked Diadora on his shoulder with a sick crunch sound following afterwards. Gahhhhhhh. The Astaroth screamed in pain as he was knocked out of the sky and down into the ground below. He stopped himself before crashing into the concrete road but noticed that he couldn't move his boy suddenly. "Wow, what is this?" He managed to get out. "You're in my trap," said Sikvera, activating her spell. A large purple magic circle appeared underneath Diadora, while 5 green magic seals circled around it, creating a time field. "If you survive this, then I don't know how else we can defeat you, so I had to where it is impossible to escape." The green time seal started to spin around the massive purple circle, creating a barrier. Purple streams of energy grew from out of the circle beneath Diadora and latched onto the Astaroth air. Serorg and Issei landed next to Sikvera, peering inside of the green barrier. "What did you do in particular, Sikvera?" asked Serorg. "The purple seal is a magic draining spell that I casted. So long as he is over that magic circle, his energy will continually be drained. The 5 magic seals circling the original is a part of my time spell. Since I stacked them all together, every second outside of the barrier is about 7 seconds within it, allowing more time for my magic draining spell to do its job," explained the blonde. "And his paralysis?" Serorg asked. "A simple paralysis spell I incorporated into the magic draining circle. Nothing special," said Sikvera with a shrug. "That's awesome. Who knew you were such a badass, Sikvera?" said Issei in awe. Sikvera pushed her glasses up on her nose while hiding her confident smirk with her hand. "I am a battle technician after all." Issei nodded, making a mental note to never piss of the blonde Agar's heiress in life. While Serorg and Sikvera were distracted by the struggling Diadora, Issei took notice that Suigetsu wasn't with them. His danger senses alerted him of a nearby presence. Glancing behind him, Issei saw Suigetsu behind Serorg with an evil glint in his eyes. Suigetsu no longer had his Kubikiribocho, but had his regular sword aimed at the Bael's back, ready to impale him. "Serorg! Behind you!" Taking heed to Issei's words, Serorg ducked, avoiding the potential death blow of Suigetsu's sword. The strong Bael twisted his body around and chopped through Suigetsu's arm. However, Serorg's eyes widened when his hand went through Suigetsu's arm like it was nothing. Crashing into Serorg's body, Suigetsu manipulated his body into water, circling around to Serorg's back. The shark boy's arms bent in unnatural ways, going underneath Serorg's arms and wrapping around his neck. His legs snaked around Serorg's thigh and legs, trapping the Bael in an impressive and disturbing display of magic. "Seems like I gotcha now," said Suigetsu. His back was against Serorg's, but he had a clear sight of the astonished faces of Sikvera and Issei. "Wasn't expecting that, were ya? What type of technique is this?" Serorg grunted as he tried to pry Suigetsu off of him, but he couldn't get a good grip because of Suigetsu's slippery skin. "Let him go. He's not the enemy," shouted Issei in rage. Suigetsu laughed at the half-devil. "Are you kidding me? I guess all these alliances have gotten to your head. This tournament is about surviving, not taking out the most dangerous threat. You all were so focused on taking out the Astaroth, you forgot that this is a every-man-for-themselves situation. The only way to finish this tournament is if only 4 remaining participants are still active. Fuck Diadora, I'm going for the weakened folks. From Suigetsu's shoulder grew a small water arm, surprising all of the onlookers. The arm stretched down to the ground to pick up Suigetsu's sword, that he dropped while trapping Serord with his limbs and pointed the sharp tip at Serod's heart. I'm a master at killing. I thought I told you all this when we first met. If you do that, you'll retire yourself. That sword will pierce through Serod's body and enter yours," said Sikvera. Suigetsu laughed as a devious gleam was present in his eye. Do I care? He. Look at me. The low-class devil forces the retirement of Naruto Bael. Suigetsu's menacing smile flashed all of his dangerously sharp teeth as he prepared to strike Naruto down. Now that sounds like a front-page headliner, Seeing his approaching doom, Naruto only had one option if he wanted to survive. The Baelair twisted his body, moving his shoulder in front of the approaching blade, saving his heart from being run through. "Ah!" he shouted before gritting his teeth in pain. The sword went through his body easily. The sword also went through Suigetsu's body, but he wasn't affected by it because of his hydrification spell. "Would you look at that?" said Suigetsu, surprised by Naruto's survival attempt. "You're a tough one." "Hey, and I can handle, much more," Naruto said with a pain-filled grin. Taking in a deep breath, Naruto jumped up and landed on his back, forcing the sword out of his shoulder while squishing Suigetsu in the process. He held back another pain-filled shout as the sword slipped out of his shoulder, but it didn't come out straight, cutting into the sides of his wound before escaping his shoulder. Issei quickly ran over and collected Naruto, pulling him away from the murderous fishboy. "You all right?" Issei asked him. I will be, but my left arm isn't working anymore," he said, gripping his left shoulder. Meanwhile, Suigetsu was reforming his body, slowly clumping it together. "Aw man, didn't expect that to happen. Fucking big, muscular-ass devils," he muttered as his body fully reformed. Suigetsu popped his neck before turning around to face his enemies, only to be blasted into the time field by Sikvera. "Bastard," she whispered, watching as Suigetsu's magic was slowly drained from his body. She turned her attention to the recovering Naruto. "Are you going to be okay?" "Yeah, I've still got both of my legs and my right hand anyway. I'll be good," he said with a thumbs up. "Good," she said, crossing her arms over her chest and watching both Suigetsu and Diadora's energy drained from her spell. "It shouldn't be long now. I don't care how much magic Diadora has, he can't last in a trap like this. He should retire soon." "So, what now?" Issei asked. "Well, I say that we should make an effort to make it to the final four," said Sikvera. "Since you two helped me against Diadora, I shall repay you by helping us get to the top four. My partner, Lee, is somewhere in this environment, probably fighting that other girl that was here. Once we get rid of these two, let's go find them and force the other girl's retirement, making the final four competitors, and we'll finally leave this annoying place." "I don't see anything wrong with that," said Naruto. "Yeah, I'm all in," answered Issei. "Good, NRRGG." Sikvera winced, grabbing her head in pain. "What's wrong, Sikvera?" asked Naruto, walking over to the blonde. "No, nothing, it's just that my magic is almost depleted. Trapping Diadora took a lot out of me," she answered truthfully. "I won't be able to keep the barrier up for long. In a few seconds, it will fade away, so be prepared." Both boys nodded, taking heed to her warning. After a few seconds, Sikvera's absorption/paralysis spell along with her time field vanished. Diadora dropped to the ground while Suigetsu groaned, already on the ground. What the fuck? What type of bullshit spell was that?" he shouted at Sikvera. "You double-crossed us. Time for you to go," threatened Sikvera. However, before Sikvera could retire the weakened Suigetsu, Diadora interrupted her with a low chuckle. His cape covered his head, but his head was moving slightly underneath. His laughing increased in volume as purple magic danced around his body. He. You all. He. You're so fucking hilarious. He hey ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. An explosion of magic created a storm of powerful gust blowing through the streets. Seek Vera, Issei, and Serorg stood strong, glaring at the laughing Diadora as he slowly stood up. You think? He ha ha ha. You honestly think you can defeat me with that mediocre spell? How disgraceful. It did enough to trap you for a while, said Seek Vera, not scared at the slightest of Diadora's power increase. It does bring up the question on why he still has so much energy left. She thought. Trapped me, yes, but I still retain some of my energy, because of my potent magic corrupting your spell. He said with a small grin, I'm not going to lie, you did surprise me with the complexity of your spell, but alas, it was nothing compared to my greatness. Diadora finished. Seems like you're still ready for a fight then, huh? Said Issei from his scale mail. Well, of course, said Diadora, stretching out his arms, I am the one that will win and be a member of the Rookie Four. I don't care who joins me in the group, but I will prove that I will be the strongest of the group. Like we'll let you do that. You're going down, buddy. Issei growled out. Diadora rolled his eyes at Issei, turning his attention to the slowly retreating Suigetsu. The boy thought that he could get away unnoticed, but Diadora caught onto him. Since you were in that spell with me, your magic must be nearly depleted. Suigetsu was sweating bullets at being caught, especially since what Diadora said was true. He slowly turned around to see Diadora's creepy closed-eye grin. Ha 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 ha, what you say again? He asked awkwardly. Crafting a magic circle, a band of purple serpents jetted towards Suigetsu, who was too tired to even defend himself properly. Because he didn't have any magic, he couldn't fuel his hydrification body spell, so he fell prey to the menacing serpent's large fangs, piercing through his skin and drawing blood. Suigetsu's body glowed blue until it disappeared. Suigetsu Hozuki has retired, said the announcer's voice, signaling Suigetsu's retirement. Well then, there goes another useless peasant, said Diadora with a yawn, 2 more retirements and this tournament is over. And you'll be one of those retirements. Caused by me, jackass, shouted Issei, his anger increasing the longer Diadora hadn't been beaten into a pulp. Calm down, Issei. Getting mad will only weaken decision-making, said Serorg gripping his left shoulder, we'll need you the most since you're not as injured as me or out of magic like Seek Vera. Well, I could help with that. Before Issei could finish, an eruption of sand came from an alleyway behind the trio. Gaia jumped out of the alleyway and landed on her sand, using it as a cushion. She was seemingly having trouble breathing as she clutched her chest. Her face was cracked like glass in multiple places with blood leaking out of a few of her injuries. Lee appeared, jumping over a building and looking down at his opponent. He was injured in a few places, but he seemed fine compared to Gaia's condition. He was about to engage the sandwich again before he noticed the crowd below him. YOSH. Is that Seek Vera and Serorg and Issei I see? Hello friends, he said with a wave. Just in time, Lee. Seek Vera yelled at her partner, come join us. We'll need your help to take down Diadora. Are you sure? He asked, jumping off of the building and landing next to Seek Vera. I'm already a little busy with a fight of my own. If you want to survive then you should join us, said Serorg to Gaia, it's 4 devils in an alliance to take down Diadora. We'll need your help too. Gaia was silent for a while, contemplating the Bael heir's words. Who retired Suigetsu? She asked after a few seconds. He did. Since you're asking about him, you must have had some type of connection with the boy, analyzed Seek Vera. They were partners that tried to kill me, shouted Lee, but I used my youth to live through their combined efforts of forcing my retirement. Seems like more of a reason to join us then. Said Serord, help us take down the person that retired your partner. Fine. She said, walking over to the group, but I have a proposition. And that is? Asked Sikvera. If we force his retirement, there will be 5 of us still here. Started the mysterious girl, you all may want my help, but how do I know that you 4 may just gang up on me when we finish off the Astaroth? She is kinda right. Said Issei with a shrug. Damn it. Thought Sikvera. She was mad because what Gaia said was exactly what she was planning to do. Now what? Because we'll need her help to take down Diadora. We don't have any more options. If it makes you comfortable, then I'll surrender the moment we finish off that guy. That way, it'll only be you, Sikvera, Serord, and Issei alive, meaning you all would be a part of the final 4. Said Lee. Lee. Said Sikvera, a little shocked by his selflessness. No, he's doing this to make sure that he keeps his promise of getting me to the final 4. He'd do all of this just for me. Deal. Muttered Gaia, let's finish this. Finalali. Said Diadora, obviously bored of their conversation, I was wondering when you all would shut the hell up and fight me. It's like you all are nicely gifted wrapped in front of me. This is why I called you all here, to show everyone that I'm the strongest. I don't care how strong you may be, Diadora, said Serord, stepping forward while gripping his left shoulder, but we will defeat you. I beg to differ, Serord. I will be the one to come out on top. Most of you are already injured while only my arm hurts somewhat from your kick earlier. You can try to fight. Diadora opened his eyes as a wide, wicked grin grew on his face. His purple aura danced around his body as he called upon his untapped magic, but I will win in the E&D. Issei Hayadu, Sikvera Agars, Gaia, Rock Lee, and Serord Bael. Versus Diadora Astaroth. Instantly, Diadora's purple serpents rocketed towards the group with open mouths, flashing their dangerously sharp fangs. Before they could deal any damage, Gaia created a sand wall, which blocked the serpents' path and pierced them as needles of sand protruded from the sand shield. I've tried facing against Diadora before. Said Gaia, whose arms were stretched upwards, manipulating her sand to protect the ground. That barrier that's protecting him is strong and punishes with electrocution from direct contact with it. And I don't have any more magic for my time spells to bypass his barrier. Sikvera said with a growl. About that, I have a phoenix tear still. Issei reached out towards Sikvera, opened his palm, revealing a phoenix tear that materialized in his hand. If you want it, you can have it. We'll need you in order to beat that dickhead. YOSH. We've gotta move. Shouted Lee, seeing more serpents slither around Gaia's sand shield and dash towards them. Everyone summoned their wings to fly away, except for Gaia, who used her sand as a floating platform to escape. Seeing them run, Diadora launched massive amount of magical projectiles at the group. You can't run away. He shouted with an insane smile as he continued his assault. Here! Shouted Issei, throwing Sikvera his phoenix tear before countering Diadora's barrage of magic with his dragon shot. Thanks. Sikvera muttered as she used the phoenix tear. Once it made contact with her body, she instantly felt 100% better, and all of her noticeable injuries healed in seconds. All right, I'm ready. She shouted to her allies. So what's the plan? Shouted Serord, kicking away another serpent that tried to devour him in one gulp. We need to tire him out. Said Gaia, deflecting a beam of magic while dodging a serpent on her sand. I don't care what he says, he has to be running low on magic. Apply pressure on him. But every time we try to hit him, that barrier of his blocks and electrocutes the youth out of us. Shouted Lee, hugging 2 serpents in a death grip, causing them to burst in a small explosion of purple and black magic. And it seems like he's taken countermeasures to the last time Lee and I faced him, said Sikvera, taking notice to the purple aura that danced around Diadora. It seems like this aura is also acting like shield. stacking that on top of his other glass-like shield that he has protecting him at all times. Again, just wear him out, muttered Gaia, manipulating her sand to go towards Issei, Serorg, and Lee. The sand wrapped itself around their fist and feet, acting as gauntlets and protective boots. While it may slow you down, my sand can protect against the electrocution of his barrier. YOSH. Then I must get serious then to deal even more damage, shouted Lee, stripping himself from his added weights. Time to fly, he shouted as he disappeared almost instantaneously. Diadora grunted as what felt like a meteor hit his barrier from behind him, but it was Lee that kicked him with such force, knocking him out of the sky. He caught himself though and continued his assault of magic at the green beast. Die, peasant, he shouted at Lee. Lee dodged the slow blast like it was nothing, but Issei appeared and cut through his blast with a Sakalon. We got you now, bitch, he shouted as he engaged Diadora, slicing through all of his serpents that were thrown at him and knocking any magic blast directed towards him. Diadora laughed, like you two can do anything significant, he said as he created a red death ball over him and disturbed its core, causing the menacing orb to explode. Gia, shouted Issei, getting knocked into a nearby water tower from the explosion. Lee was also knocked away from the force of the explosion, but landed safely on the roof of a building before engaging Diadora's barrier again with a barrage of punches and kicks. Have a taste of my youth, shouted Lee, his attacks creating small spider web cracks on the glass-like barrier protecting the blue-haired Astaroth inside. Imbecile, said Diadora while launching a barrage of serpents at Lee. However, red laser jumped around Lee's body and pierced into the snakes, disintegrating them from the inside out. Diadora growled when he noticed it was Seek Vera that was countering his serpents from afar with her powerful lasers. You damn coward! Face me! Suddenly, Lee used Diadora's barrier as a platform to push himself away, Gaia's sand boots protecting him from its electric jolt. The injured but still dangerous Bael, with a mysterious white hue of energy surrounding him, came from behind Lee with his right arm cocked back and delivered a thunderous punch to Diadora's shield, breaking through Diadora's shield. Before he could deal any damage to Diadora himself, the serpents dancing around Diadora's body jumped at Serorg, bashing into his body and knocking him away. Serorg landed on the ground with a grunt before flying after the Royal Astaroth. Issei and Lee joined him as they flew through the skies, countering magical blast, snakes, and any other attack that Diadora launched at them. From beneath them, Seek Vera and Gaia were blocking any attacks that the boys couldn't block with their own spells and sand, keeping the trio safe as they followed Diadora through sky. Launching multiple death balls at the trio like they were minor spells, Diadora laughed at the group. This is really what you have to offer. I could have destroyed you all when this fight first started. Ahahahahaha. I am invisible. Kicking a death ball into a nearby skyscraper, Serorg shouted at the blue-haired devil, Diadora, I don't know how you became this powerful in such a short amount of time, but we will win and stop you. That's a promise I will see forth, for my name is Serorg Bael. Your gibberish isn't making sense. I'll shut you up now, shouted the Astaroth, shooting multiple dragons of different elements at Serorg. Gaia counteracted Diadora's dragons by wrapping Serorg in a cocoon of sand, protect him from the elemental beast as the exploded upon contact. Releasing the Bael when it was safe, Gaia called back her sand, which allowed the Tuki-enhanced Bael to rocket towards Diadora and break through his glass-like barrier again with a powerful kick. Again, Diadora's serpents that were protecting him jumped at the Bael, intending on piercing him with their fangs and bashing into his body, but Serorg intercepted the snakes by catching their heads and wrapping them together in his arms. What are you doing? Shouted Diadora, highly confused by Serorg's actions. Suddenly, Issei appeared over the Bael air and sliced through the snakes with Ascalon. Gotcha now, dickhead. Lee appeared behind, delivered a deadly drop kick to Diadora's exposed back. His back made a sickening crunch sound as he was descended down to the ground. While he was in a world of hurt, he was confused when he landed on a floating surface of sand. What is? Take this, peasant, was the sound of Issei's voice before he punched Diodora through Gaia's sand and into a nearby building. Bursting through the other side, Diodora landed harshly on the concrete ground, creating a personal crater in the ground. AHHRRRHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHe hollowed in pain as pain racked through his body in waves. The group landed on the ground nearby and watched the howling devil. "All right. We did it!" shouted Issei in happiness. "He's not finished with yet," said Sikvera, conjuring a magic seal and shoot a few streams of magic at Diodora, intending on finishing him off. His sense rang through his head that something was approaching him. Using all of his might, Diodora ignored his pain and summoned a defensive barrier, protecting him from retirement. "Seems like he still has enough stamina to move," said Serorg as they watched Diodora struggle to get back on his feet. "You are..." "Erg." Diodora gasped as he stood up after some time. He glared at the five devils with all the hatred he had in his body. How dare why you put me through such difference? Difficulties that you caused," said Sikvera while pushing up her glasses. "I'm sure you'll be under investigation for this huge power increase. I don't know how you did it, but no young devil should have the amount of magic you do. It is physically impossible." Diodora was silent, but on the inside, he was panicking. "Why can't I call upon any more of Opha's power? Did I use it all? How can that be?" "I think he gave up," said the curious Lee. "As he should," said Sikvera, summoning another magic circle, intending on blasting Diodora out of the dimension. However, the blue-haired Astaroth started to chuckle, stopping her. "Oh, you all are so funny. Making me resort to such extremes." "What extremes?" muttered Gaia darkly. Diodora's grin caused the young devils to tense. Something was wrong. "You must have forgotten. I have a trump card high in the sky," he shouted, pointing to the fake moon that he created in the red sky. Witness what Diodora Astaroth can do." The five devils stared up at the moon as it suddenly turned purple, scaring a few of them. Multiple magic circles appeared around the moon, dancing along its surface. From the magic circles grew dragons from each element, flying up in the air before descending to the ground, breaking through the cloud layer. The moon continually grew smaller, fueling the multiple spells, as it produced more dragons, all of them directed towards the five devils below. Once the moon had vanished, Gaia, Sikvera, Serorg, Issei, and Lee were amazed as the sky was filled with elemental dragons. The dragons blocked out the real moon along with the red sky of the city environment, with the fire and lightning elemental dragons relighting up the sky with red and blue light. "Wah!" Sikvera recalled her magic circle and lowered her arm, staring up at the sky in disbelief. "What can we do? There has to be hundreds of them. We don't have the magic to stop them all. We gotta get out of here," shouted Issei, tugging on Serorg. "Come on. We can't escape," muttered Gaia, staring at their slowly approaching doom. "His spell is too powerful. We're not fast enough to fly away, plus, they're all aimed at us. They'll just follow us if we leave." "Unfortunately, she's right, Issei," said Serorg, crushing Issei's hopes of coming out of this alive. "This is it." But there has to be some way," said Issei, turning to the only person that hadn't said anything yet, Lee. "You agree with me, right?" Lee's eyes flashed with fire as determination ran throughout his body, something that Issei saw. "You have a plan," he said instantly, recognizing that look in Lee's eyes. "YOSH. It's time to release all of my youth." Lee screeched, "Gate of life open." A green aura erupted from Lee's body, creating a powerful whirlwind. Sikvera covered her face with her arms as she withstood the powerful gust. "Lee, what are you doing?" she shouted as she watched his skin turn red and his eyes turned completely white. "Gate of pain open. Gate of limit open." Two more powerful bursts of energy erupted from the green beast. His skin was sizzling and multiple veins protruded disgustingly. After taking a few breaths, Lee calmed his tremendous aura down, which allowed his allies to drop the hands from the dying whirlwind. "I'm going to need some help," he said. "Lee. What is this?" muttered Sikvera in shock. "No time to explain, I need help," said Lee in a commanding voice. "Wahaha. I knew I shouldn't have doubted you," laughed Serord. "What type of help do you need, green beast?" "I need sand around my body. I'm going to need some form of protection," said Lee, looking towards Gaia. With a slow nod, Gaia manipulated her sand around Lee's body, just like her own amour of sand. Once that he was finished, he looked over to Sikvera. "Can you use a time spell to make my movements quicker? I remember that Ryagars could do something similar when we faced him a few months ago." "I can," muttered Sikvera, holding out her hand and whispering a few chants. A few seconds later, two green seals appeared beneath Lee's feet. "There, it's done." "Issei, can I get some energy?" asked Lee. "Sure thing," said Issei, happy to contribute as he transferred energy to his buddy. Diodora's laughing interrupted the group. "Ha ha 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 ha. What could you possibly do? You're going to die here, and I'll make sure of it." Lee ignored Diodora as he turned to Serord. "I'm going to need a lift. One that I shall provide," Serord said with a smirk. Lee nodded and took a few steps back and entered into a running position. Using his uninjured right arm, Serord opened his palm and lowered it to the ground. "It's time to show them your youth, green beast," shouted Serord as Lee ran towards him. Once Lee's foot landed in Serord's palm, the Bael threw him in the air. Lee's body phased through the air as he summoned his wings and readied his final attack. Diodora's confidence slightly wavered as he watched the flying Lee. What is he doing? It's time for YOOOUUUUTTHHHH. Reverse Lotus, shouted Lee, disappearing as Sikvera activated her time spell. The five devils looked up to sky to see what Lee had planned. Nothing happened for a few seconds, creating some doubt to seep into their hearts, but that doubt was killed when a few dragons exploded all of a sudden. "What the fuck?" shouted Diodora as more and more of his dragons started to explode. "What the hell is going on?" "He's breaking through them," said Sikvera with a small laugh. The blonde Agars thought back of when they first fought Diodora, and Lee broke through all of Diodora's lightning dragons. "He's using pure speed to break through them." "What?" shouted Diodora, overhearing Sikvera. Even though he could hardly see him, sure enough, Lee was bouncing from one dragon to the other, breaking through them with an incredible amount of force and seemingly teleporting to the next. The sky was filled with explosions as he continually destroyed multiple dragons in only a second, moving to his next victim. No. Diodora shouted out, clawing at his face as he started to break down. "This wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't supposed to happen. It's just a dream." Second by second, dozens of Diodora's dragons were destroyed as the explosions increased in number. The sand covering Lee's body, however, couldn't handle all of the explosions and slowly started to peel off, exposing him to the powerful blast. Nevertheless, Lee ignored all of the pain as he continued to break through all of the dragons in a dazzling display of effort. In 1 minute, all of Diodora's dragons were destroyed. Lee appeared in the sky, heavily damaged from all his work. His clothes were tattered, his bandages were unraveled, and he was bleeding from multiple open wounds. "All right, Lee," shouted Issei from the ground, "you did it. That man is something else. He deserves the title Green Beast," said Serord. Diodora looked utterly defeated while the others celebrated Lee's victory. He fell to his knees as he looked up at Lee floating in the air. This isn't possible. Lee, come down here." shouted Sikvera with a wide smile. Her smile, though, slowly disappeared because Lee had yet to respond to their yells. Lee? While he was floating in the air, Lee had lost consciousness off of pure instinct. The damage his body took during his final attack was too great for him to handle. Slowly, he started to lose his balance in the sky until he began his descent to the ground, head first. Lee! Sikvera quickly summoned her wings and flew up to catch Lee before he injured himself even more. By the time that she made it to him, his body was encased in blue light before disappearing from the dimension. Rock Lee has retired, said the announcer's voice. Diodora, who was still shocked by his defeat, saw Sikvera fly in the sky to save Lee. When his body disappeared, he glanced over to the other devils on the ground. Gaia, Serorg, and Issei were visibly hurt and tired from their battle against the Astaroth, an opportunity he wasn't going to waste. Silently, temporarily ignoring the pain that filled his body, 3 small, yellow magic circles appeared over his open palm. Gaia, Issei, and Serorg were watching Sikvera fly in the air to save Lee, meaning they were distracted by the fact that Diodora tossed all 3 magic seals at the trio. Gaia muttered as a yellow magic circle appeared under her. Electricity suddenly coursed through her body, along with Issei and Serorg, enabling them immobile. No! Shouted Sikvera, changing direction and flying back down to save her allies, but she knew wouldn't be able to save them from the quick-charge death ball Diodora created. This is it! He shouted with an insane grin, spitting out blood while doing so. I win! He finished as he threw his death orb at the trio. Now, partner! Shouted Drake using the mental link he shared with his host. A boost of power erupted from Issei's armored body, instantly breaking Diodora's paralysis spell. His dragon-like wings erupted out of his back and Issei blasted towards Diodora's death orb. This won't stop me. Take this! He shouted, punching and ripping through Diodora's death orb with ease, shocking the Astaroth. Issei's was unharmed by the explosion of the disfigured death orb as he flew through the smoke and engaged Diodora. No! Don't touch me! Said Diodora in fear, conjuring a magic barrier to block Issei. Issei called forth Acyclon and entered a clash against Diodora's barrier. Spark flew everywhere as the two battled against one another. You fucking dickhead! Issei shouted in anger, I can't wait to slice through that thick skull of yours. Why are still fighting? Just let me win. I'm a high-class devil. Diodora barked back. His barrier cracked as Issei continued to apply pressure, increasing the Astaroth's doubts. I don't care if you're a high-class, mid-class, or low-class. You hurt my friends and I'm not having it. Issei yelled with a battle cry, Pierce. Diodora's shield broke instantly into a million pieces, shocking Diodora. His mouth was ajar and a shiver ran through his body as Issei stood over him with a Sakhalon aimed at his heart. Please, wait. I don't have any mercy in my heart to give you. Issei said with a growl as he pulled his arm back, this is for Lee. He shouted as he moved forward, ready to deal the finishing BL. SHRNKK. Ascalon's tip was inches away from Diodora's heart, but it wasn't what pierced the Astaroth air. Both Diodora and Issei slowly looked down at their stomach to see a spear of sand running through the both of them. Seeing how the tip of spear protruded out of Diodora's back, the spear must have come from behind Issei before he finished off Diodora, and only one person in the devil exams that utilized sand. Gaia, no longer affected by Diodora's paralysis spell, crossed her arms and closed her eyes, seeing her job done, and that's that. She muttered. Why in the hell would you do that? Shouted Serorg in a rare display of anger, Issei is our ally. Nobody is an ally. Gaia answered, not bothered by Serorg's outburst, they dropped their guard and I took advantage, an opportunity I've been searching for the entire time I joined you lot. She explained. Diodora coughed up blood as he gripped the shaft of the sand spear. He grunted as he tried to pull it out of his body, but his arms were too weak to do so. God. Damn it. He whispered as he continued to struggle. Issei's balance breaker disappeared, revealing his weakened and tattered body. Blood was leaking out of his mouth and from his stomach. While it didn't hit any vital parts, the spear served its purpose. Blood dripped out of the wound, a small pool of it mixing with Diodora beneath them. "Heh. Look at this," said Issei, slowly feeling his consciousness slip away. Why haven't you retired yet?" Diodora said with a gasp as he crumpled down to the ground, bringing Issei down with him. Issei flashed the Astaroth a wide grin before he disappeared. "This isn't the first time I've been impaled. I'm getting used to the sensation." He finished as Diodora disappeared in a flash of blue. Diodora Astaroth has retired. This is the final retirement of the Devil exams. The Devil exams is officially over, spoke the announcer. Issei's body disappeared in a flash of blue once he succumbed to unconsciousness. However, no announcement was made. Sikvera landed back on the ground with the only other two devils in the rating game dimension. She glanced over to Gaia, who still had her eyes closed and arms crossed. "You know, I can't even get mad at you right now. I would have probably done the same thing," she admitted. "Like any smart devil would," Gaia answered after a few seconds of silence. Serorg sighed, putting Gaia's treacherous actions past him for now. "At least we made it to the final four. Never in my wildest dreams did I have Diodora causing the most trouble during this tournament." "Same here, however." Sikvera pushed her glasses up on her nose as she looked up at the red sky. "I wonder why they haven't recalled us yet. The Devil exam is over. I need to leave this Lucifer-forsaken place now before I go crazy. I don't know what's going on," muttered Serord, rubbing the back of his head with his good arm. "Maybe a slip-up with the rating game system?" Lilith Coliseum Rating Game Dimension Control Room. Surzex gripped his chair in anger as he watched the devils he had in charge of controlling the rating game dimension panic as they slowly lost control of the dimension itself. "What in the hell is happening?" he asked/yelled to one of the lead devils. We don't know, Lucifer-sama." The busty female devil shouted in fear. "All of a sudden, our magic seals were overridden by foreign presence. We don't know who's responsible. Seems like we can't recall the young devils within the dimension now. The only thing we can do is send people inside of it," spoke Ajuka, looking at a few screens and gathering any information that could be of use. "It has to be a being of immense strength to override even the counter seals we had set up in place of an event like this. This doesn't look good at all," said Azazel, glancing over to Odin, who seemed to be in an internal conflict with himself. Know anything, old-timer?" Odin looked down at his lap as he slowly connected the dots. "I feel as if he's here," he muttered. "Rating game dimension, city environment." Serord, Sikvera, and Gaia looked up to the sky as a massive magic circle appeared. Sikvera narrowed her eyes in suspicion as she studies the complexity of the seal. "Is that Norse magic?" she said to herself, recognized the structure of the seal from her studies of foreign magic. From the seal was a man as he phased into the dimension. He had long blue hair that floated behind him, along with two bangs flowing down the sides of his face. He was wearing a long white robe that covered his body, and had blue jewels on his forehead. Took them long enough to finish their little squabble. "Who are you?" said Serord to the unidentified man. "Lilith Coliseum, Naruto's suite." Naruto, his peerage members, and Gabriel's eyes were glued to the screen as the presented himself as Loki. Orochimaru was the first to respond. "Loki? As in the evil god of Norse mythology? Why would he teleport into the rating game dimension?" Slowly, an evil grin grew on Naruto's face as an idea clicked in his head. He stood up from his chair, gaining everyone's attention while doing so. "Do you know what this is?" he asked out loud to nobody in particular. When nobody answered, Naruto clenched his hands together as a wave of excitement filled his body. An opportunity. He answered. Time skip, minutes later. Forgive me, said Odin, bowing to the 4 Satans in front of him. I should have known that Loki would pull something off like this just to get to me. Currently, the control room for the devil exams was under extreme panic as Loki's talked about the start of Ragnarok, with the 3 devils in the rating game dimension to be the first deaths of the world-ending process. The devils tried to find a way to recall the devil youths out of the dimension and away from the powerful god, but found no luck in doing so. He's not allowing us to recall the devil youth, but hasn't restricted the ability of sending someone in, said Azazel. Sounds like a ploy to me for Odin to go in for himself so he can finish you off. And this responsibility is nobody's but mine. I should be the one to stop him, said Odin. He was about to continue speaking, but the sound of someone knocking and then entering the room interrupted him. Seems like you guys are in a pickle. He. Laughed Naruto as he entered the control room with his peerage and Gabriel at his side. Need some help? Help? How so, young Naruto? Asked Michael. Send me in there with my peerage. We'll handle the situation, Naruto said with a smile. No, I won't allow it. This is my problem, and I should be the one to handle it, said Odin, actually serious for once. Calm down, you old geezer, said Naruto, slapping the elder god on his back lightly, shocking everyone in the room with his bravery. Just let us handle it. You're our guest here in the underworld, so just take a chill pill. We've got things covered. Are you sure? Loki is not just some other foe, warned Odin. He is a god that can kill even the Satans. Good thing I'm not a Satan, countered Naruto with a laugh as he looked over to Surzex. You alright with this, old buddy? You trust me enough, no? Surzex actually smiled at his blonde friend. I feel like Naruto can handle the situation, he said, shocking a few people in the room. Are you sure about his now? Asked Gabriel, visibly worried for her fellow blonde. I don't want you all getting hurt. Don't worry about it, Gabby. I've got the best peerage in the world supporting me, so I won't be alone. Our teamwork at top notch. 1 out of trillion. You'll see, he said with another laugh. If you do fight Loki, take my assistant, Rosweiss, with you, said Odin, motioning to his very beautiful female companion. She is prominent in Norse sealing magic and can seal someone like Loki. All you have to do is distract him enough for her to work her magic. All right. Seems fair. Nice to meet you, Rosweiss, Naruto said with a cheeky smile to the white-haired beauty. And you as well, Naruto-sama, she replied with a respectful bow. So, said Naruto, turning back to Surzex, can you give us a lift? Rating game dimension, city environment. Sikvera shakily took a step back as Loki floated over to the trio. We can't defeat a god. We hardly beat Diodora. Why haven't they called us back to the underworld yet? You're scared? He said, noticing that Sikvera was shaking all over. He laughed. Good. It means you realize just how beneath me you really are. Seems like we're going to have to fight our way out of this one. Or die trying, said Serorg, entering a battle stance, even though his left arm was still limp from Suajetsu piercing through it with his sword earlier. Gaia called forth her sand and readied it to use against the approaching evil god. However, a large, red, magic circle appeared behind the young devils, catching their and Loki's attention. From the magic seal came Naruto and his peerage, with Rosweiss arriving in her own magic circle. Hi there, Naruto said with a wave. Naruto Bael is here to save the day. Naruto-sama? What are you doing here? Serorg said, his stance loosening a little at seeing his fellow clansmen. Just here to stop an evil god from destroying the world, Naruto said casually. I'm starting to get used to these weird occurrences we get ourselves into. Anna muttered, clearly annoyed at their current predicament. Don't worry, Anna. We'll make this quick so we can go back home. I promise you, said Yo, gripping the handle to his sword, Harasame. Oh. So, you're the backup they brought in? Not what I was expecting, said Loki, disappointed in the turnout. Roswai stepped forward. Lord Loki, please stop this madness. If you have a complaint with the Allfather, then you should file a complaint through the proper channels, she shouted. And who's going to stop me? You. Talented you may be, you can't stop me, a god, Loki stated arrogantly. A god? Said Kisame, a god, where have I heard that from? Wasn't it those black guys on YouTube that had that funny video? Yo, you know what I'm talking about. You mean our DC World 1's reenactment of the Avengers but as African Americans? Yo said as his face lit up in happiness, oh yeah. Those guys were too funny. Whenever Mark would say I am a god, I would die of laughter. Is that the YouTube thingy you two shown me before? Asked Naruto innocently from the Google thing, right? Are we really talking about YouTube videos in Google when there is a god right in front of us? Said Orochimaru with a sigh. Man, you just a hater. Shouted Kisame, always got some negative-ass shit to say. Go back in your lab and, I don't know, dissect children or some shit. What the fuck you do in that creepy-as lab of yours? I just want to go home. There's a documentary about Native Americans coming on later, and I want to watch it. Said How. Not so fast, How. Tonight is my night with the remote. Said Anna with a glare, making sure nobody took away her TV privileges. I just want to go home, Mimi. Yawned Kuroka, covering her mouth with her small hands. Sikvera, Gaia, Serorg, Rosweiss, and even Loki's sweat dropped as the peerage totally ignored them in favor of entertaining themselves in useless conversations. Are they always like this? Sikvera asked Serorg, knowing that he had been around Naruto's peerage a few times in the past. Unfortunately, yes. He said with an awkward head scratch, truly, these people have no shame. Loki growled as he summoned a mass array of magic circles, interrupted the group's conversation. Enough of this blasphemy. How dare you ignore my presence for ignorant banter? It's like watching vermin fight over trash. Hey! Who the fuck is he calling vermin? Yelled Kisame, gripping same hate in anger. I don't even know what that word means, but I bet you it has to do with shit. I'll let you have that one for now, Kisame. Said Orochimaru, focusing on the task at hand. We have a god to defeat. Right, let's get back on track. Said Naruto. He then looked over to the three young devils. You three. Get behind us. We don't need you getting in the way. Why yes sir. Said Serorg, pulling the slightly offended Sikvera aside. Gaia followed the two, but she was curious as to how the outcome of the approaching battle would turn out. All right, team. Let's make this quick. You guys ready to defeat a god? Said Naruto, calling forth his magic. Loki scoffed as he crossed his arms over his chest, as if you pitiful devils could even harm me. But alas, I'd like to see you try. Team Naruto versus Loki, Norse god. Kuroka, could you be a deer and start things off for us? Asked Naruto, looking over to his queen. Giving him a silent nod, Kuroka summoned multiple purple magic behind the group, matching Loki's own field of Norse magic circles in size. Loki raised an eyebrow at Kuroka's skill. Oh, maybe this will be a little entertaining. You all may really want to fly somewhere safe, Kuroka said to the onlookers. Things are really going to fiery, Naya. Taking heed to her warning, Sikvera, Rosweiss, Serorg, and Gaia took to the skies, taking what they felt a safe distance away from the battle zone. Stay safe, said Serorg. Kuroka smiled at the young Bael before focusing her attention on the evil god in front of her. With a snap of her fingers, purple gases expelled from her magic circles, filling the entire area in a shade of purple. Said Loki, confused at what she was doing. He didn't try to escape the purple gas as it engulfed him and his magic circles. This gas isn't poisonous, he deduced. Disperse, muttered Naruto. All of his peerage members, excluding Kuroka, flew out of the purple gas field, leaving the Nikomata by herself. Kuroka created a blue sphere around her and started to walk towards the evil god, knowing his exact position thanks to her mastery of senjutsu. So you're my opponent? This is really disappointing, said Loki, shaking his head. By the way, how you all disrespected me by ignoring my presence. I thought that you all may have some skill, but I guess I was wrong. Shut up, Naya, said Kuroka with a roll of her eyes. You're just a big meanie. If that's all you have to offer, then I'll end you now, the Norse god said, activating his many magic seals. However, the moment his seals glowed blue with power, the gas surrounding them sparked a massive explosion. Loki was caught in the middle of it all, getting knocked out of the skies because of the force. All of the nearby buildings were utterly destroyed from the powerful explosion. Nothing could withstand the eruption of fire as many of the skyscrapers were dismantled and thrown around the city environment like toys. From the skies, Roswius and the three young devils watched the hellfire below them with wide eyes, except for Gaia, who was hiding her shock under her nonchalant appearance. A third of the city is gone, muttered Serord, shocked by what looked like a basic spell was the fuel to hell. The gas was explosive, but not to fire, but foreign magic, said Sikvera, thoroughly shocked at Kuroka's skill level. This is incredible. With the ground now destroyed, Loki freed himself from the wreckage on top of him with a burst of magic. Wasn't expecting that. This may actually be interesting. Before he could take to the skies again, a blue magic circle appeared beneath his feet. Chains shot out and wrapped around his limbs, holding him in place. What's this? He muttered. Suddenly, snakes from the ground below the god jump out and bit him on various parts of his body, injecting him with their venom. Loki scoffed, not even noticing the pain. How stupid. Venom doesn't affect me. I am a god, he shouted with a burst of magic, breaking from the snakes and chains holding him down. His senses warned him of something nearby, and he instantly created two barriers on his left and right sides. Zenki and Goki, with Goki equipped with his battle axe, burst through the smoke and attacked Loki's barriers, but couldn't break through. A new ally in Yo appeared in front of Loki, using the gap in his barrier to attack. Loki quick-fired a blue beam of magic. The beam shot clean through the younger Asakura twin's body, but his body phased away, surprising Loki. An after image? Yo appeared above him with Harasum aimed for his head, and Loki shot another pressurized beam from his finger again, but Yo's body phased away like an illusion. The process continued to happen, with Goki and Zenki joining Yo to injure Loki. Loki continually grew frustrated because he couldn't land a clean hit on the vanishing boy. Stop running away, vermin, he yelled. Yo jumped away from Loki and vanished within the dying smoke cloud caused by Kuroka's explosion. Loki's attention was pulled away from the retreating Yo and to the ground. He was surrounded by pink spell tags, all of them glowing in power. He wasn't trying to injure me. He was setting these spell tags down the entire time. Magic danced around Loki, forming a shape of a star with him in the middle. He was suddenly paralyzed and couldn't call upon his magic, surprising him. As soon as the spell was complete, from the smoke came a massive flamethrower of blazing flames from his front, and a huge column of water shaped as a shark behind him on a collision course with him in the middle. Fucking sucker, Kisame said with a grin, recalling the huge massive circle he used to create his shark bomb. His grin grew when he saw the two attacks collide into the god, creating another massive explosion, not the size of Kuroka's nuclear explosion, but enough to still permanently damage the environment. Enough of this, shouted Loki, fed up that he was being toyed with. Flying out of the steam caused by Hao and Kisame's combination attack, Loki created a massive magic circle that covered a large portion of the city environment. I don't know where you roaches are hiding, but you can't evade this. He yelled as the sky rained blue magic streams of destruction. Naruto and his peerage were on the ground, safely protected by a powerful barrier that Orochimaru created. Seems like he's mad now, stated the Snake Man. Good, that means he's not thinking clearly now. With a little more confusion, he'll be easy to seal, God or not. Said how? You guys are really doing great. You may not even need my help, said Naruto with a few nods, highly impressed with his peerage. You know I could be absorbing a lot of that free magic he's throwing around, right? Kisame said to his king, I would have been perfectly fine. Can you please stop complaining about everything, little thing? Anna said to the blue-skinned man, it's getting annoying. Can you please go jump in a volcano and leave me the hell alone? Kisame countered. All right guys, Yo said with an awkward laugh, let's not fight each other now. He's finished his spell, said Kuroka, interrupting Kisame and Anna's argument. Let's finish this so I can get in bed, Naya. She said with a yawn, I want to take a nap. Sure thing, said Orochimaru, recalling his barrier, it's all you. Summoning her wings, Kuroka led her peerage's members as they confronted the angry god in the air. You're taking up more of my night time, Naya, the girl said with a glare. Then just die and you can sleep forever, he yelled, blasting an impressive stream of Norse magic at the group. Taking advantage of the free energy, Kisame jumped in front of the blast and let Samehade eat all of it, getting a pleasurable shriek of thanks from the demon sword. Anna resummoned Goki and Zenki and had them attack Loki again. Orochimaru decided to back up the two Shikigami by creating small water serpents to follow them as they engaged Loki. Loki dodged all of Goki and Zenki's attempts of hurting him with pure speed, floating gracefully through all of their attacks. He blocked Orochimaru's water serpents with ease, before shooting both Shikigami with pressurized beams of magic, causing the duo fading and retreating back into Anna's mind. The evil god of Norse mythology didn't have an opportunity to gloat from his small victory, as he was assaulted by a barrage of blue flames coming from Kuroka. Dodging through the barrage, Loki didn't notice Yo appear behind him and slice his arm off with lightning speeds. Erg. Loki winced as he flew above the group. Flying past the clouds, Loki's arm started to grow back, because of the powerful healing spell he had in his arsenal. From below, pink dust broke through the clouds and surrounded Loki to his annoyance. Flying out of the pink dust cloud, he was greeted to Kisame with an evil grin as he slammed Samehade on top of his head, knocking him out of the sky with a loud thunderclap. Breaking into a skyscraper, Loki halted his descent with a burst of magic, using it as an air brake. Enough of this. They're just toying with me. Suddenly, a red arm burst from the floor under him, grabbing his leg and pulling him through each floor. Reaching what seemed to be a lavish lobby, Loki was thrown into the ground, creating his own personal crater. Hi there, said Naruto with a smirk, standing over the god's crater while recalling his destruction arms. Loki growled as he tried to stand up, but couldn't as he was suddenly hit with a wave of paralysis. What is this? He said as he noticed a growing black flame pattern dance along the surface of his skin, a curse mark. Yup, said Naruto, stuffing his hands into his pockets. His peerage members and Roswius casually entered the destroyed building through the front door, surrounding the paralyzed god. Remember when Orochimaru's snakes bit you? They didn't inject you with venom. We're not stupid to think that a god would be hurt by simple poison. Correct. My snakes were the one that placed my curse mark on you, immobilizing you by his command, said Orochimaru, pointing towards his smiling king. Anna, if you would be a dear. Anna nodded, reaching into a magic circle and pulling out a plethora of spell tags that she placed around Loki. The tags all gleamed a dangerous red as a multi-layered red barrier phased around the fallen god. And that's game, said Naruto. That was a good little workout. Too bad Lee couldn't enjoy it with us. Lee's had enough fighting for a few weeks," said Orochimaru. While I was disappointed that he didn't make it to the final four, he still stood out from the other participants. "Yeah. I'm proud of him," said Naruto with an innocent smile. Meanwhile, Roswia stared at the group with wide eyes, not able to comprehend how they were so laid back at a time like this. How did you capture him so simply? Even Asgard's strongest Valkyrie would have trouble subduing a god. Well, no offense, but we work better as a team than Valkyries. They all know the same spells and it's predictable, while my peerage is diverse with abilities. Naruto said with a shrug, but now that this over, you can seal him with no problems. Right. Yes sir. Thank you very much, she said with a bow before creating a complex array of magic seals. Good job, everyone, said Naruto. Now, we should go pay our rookie Lee a visit. He did really good, Naya, said Kuroka with a small smile. I hope he doesn't feel disappointed in himself. Knowing him, he probably does, said Hao, fixing his poncho. He's very adamant on proving himself to us, so. A plague of those associated with Naruto Bael, may your truths reveal themselves, resulting in your eternal suffering, Loki chanted as Roswia sealed him away. Naruto and his peerage members glanced at each other awkwardly, not sure what to do. Okay, said Kisame. What a weirdo. Maybe that was his last attempt at scaring us? Said Yo, looking to his fiancée for an answer, but was gifted Anna shrugging her shoulders in confusion as well. No matter, said Naruto with cheeky grin while flashing a peace sign to his loyal followers. We win. Same time. Location? A mysterious figure watched Naruto and his peerage members defeat and seal Loki, the evil god of Norse mythology, in an impressive display of skill and dominance. The figure paused the screen to Naruto, who was grinning with his peace sign. Taking in his form, the mysterious person smiled. He's the one. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.